The Journey of the Mechas. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 376 Breaking News. Yang Mu met old Yan, who was waiting at the door, jumped out of the car immediately, walked forward quickly, stopped in front of old Yan, and saluted. Yan Shenfu looked at the young man in front of him with a smile, and then said with a smile, "Don't be too surprised if you are intercepted halfway." Yang Mu still had a surprised smile on his face, and he didn't care about such a situation, just grinned twice. Yang Mu was still very happy to see old Yan here. After all, when he knew that he was assigned to the Mecha Research Institute of the National Academy of Science and Technology, Yang Mu felt that he should work under old Yan, and now it seems to be true. Seeing Yang Mu's attitude, Yan Shenfu also laughed twice, and then asked Yang Mu to take his luggage and follow him inside. "Originally, I wanted you to go back to Kunlun College first, but I suddenly remembered, so I called Yang and asked you to come directly. Anyway, there's nothing to learn there now," Yan Shenfu said to Yang Mu while walking. Yang Mu grinned and nodded, following Yan Shenfu at a slow pace. After not seeing him for a year, Yan Shenfu was still full of energy, walking vigorously, and Yang Mu had to keep up with him. Perhaps this was the habit Yan Shenfu had developed here, being vigorous and resolute. Yan Shenfu didn't care about these details, but just spoke to Yang Mu again and said, "Tomorrow, you will start working here, of course, as my assistant. Your uniform and documents have been prepared and will be sent to you later. I will take you to visit here first." Yan Shenfu took Yang Mu through this wide space and then came to a residential area. It was called a residential area, but in fact it was just a series of 3x3 small rooms, all stacked together, occupying a large area. Yan Shenfu probably prepared it early in the morning, and took out a card from his pocket, scanned it on the edge of a square, and the door of the room opened, and Yan Shenfu took Yang Mu in. "Put your things away. This will probably be your residence for a long time." Yang Mu looked around. Although the room was not big, it had everything he needed for daily life. He nodded and put down the things he had brought with him. Yan Shenfu called Yang Mu out at this time. Yang Mu hurried out, and Yan Shenfu took Yang Mu to continue to visit the base. Yang Mu didn't say anything and followed him directly. "You saw it when you came in. The entire research institute is actually built in the mountains, so the space is huge. I will take you to visit it casually." Yan Shenfu said this and clicked on the personal terminal in his hand. Two small suspended self-propelled platforms floated over from the wall slot on one side. The two people continued to move forward on this thing. Yan Shenfu took Yang Mu to move forward slowly in it, and saw many places: the cafeteria, the training ground, the gym, and many living facilities, and then entered the workshop area. When they walked here, Yan Shenfu slowly stopped through the glass and let Yang Mu look at the situation inside. Yang Mu turned his head and looked inside. There were the wreckage of two mechas. Several people in white jumpsuits were operating mechanical arms to dismantle the mechas. Someone was directly selecting the relevant parts on them, welding, correcting or rebuilding them. This is the anti-assembly workshop. As you can see, they smashed the mechas in the shooting range, and then brought them here to dismantle the various parts to see if these parts can be quickly replaced or updated to ensure assembly and updating in actual combat. Yan Shenfu said this, and Yang Mu immediately understood what this meant. To put it bluntly, it was to dismantle the damaged mechas, select useful parts, and at the same time make some measurements on the relevant parts to see how to quickly rebuild them, or repair the slightly damaged parts. Seeing Yang Mu's concentration, Yan Shenfu smiled and explained carefully, "The manufacture of mechas is not simple. We need to simulate all their states here, from assembly to disassembly, to simplify any steps that are cumbersome in daily maintenance and wartime maintenance." After saying this, Yan Shenfu continued to move forward, and Yang Mu hurried to catch up. Yan Shenfu pointed to another workshop next to him. This is the primary material workshop, which is responsible for delivering raw materials to the forging workshop behind. "I think you will be interested." Yang Mu looked over in confusion, and when he arrived in front of there, Yang Mu saw several huge rocks on the table in this workshop. The people inside were using tools to split them and send them to the grinding port on the other side to select the raw materials that had been preliminarily processed. And Yang Mu saw a familiar thing here, and the bright silver color made Yang Mu's eyes light up. "Is that?" Yaodi, Yang Mu asked, and Yan Shenfu also stopped at this time, looked at Yang Mu, then looked at the things in the workshop, and nodded. That's right, this is the Yaodi you discovered, Yang boy, it's this thing that can match many troops, and it's all thanks to you. Yan Shenfu said this with emotion, but Yang Mu pursed his lips and shook his head. Yan Shenfu understood what Yang Mu meant, and said earnestly, until now, other countries don't know about this thing except us. We have accelerated the control of Mokostar and mined large quantities of this thing. However, this thing is indeed as you said, all kinds of physical and chemical properties are stronger than other high-end materials. Yan Shenfu said this and continued to move forward. This thing is now an important research object of our various research institutes. You should also learn more about the use of this thing when the time comes. Yang Mu nodded and continued to keep up. There were smelting workshops, design and manufacturing workshops, and highly intelligent workshops in front. One after another, it is almost like a mecha has the most subdivided workshops from the metal in this oil to the final formed mecha, and experiments are carried out while manufacturing. When he walked to the last workshop, Yang Mu saw rows of engines. The temperature here was second only to that of the smelting workshop. Several engines were rumbling and spraying flames. The sound filled his eardrums. It was not until he put on noise-canceling headphones that he felt better. At this time, Yan Shenfu greeted him inside, and a thin and slightly short man walked over quickly and asked Yan Shenfu in the headset. Yan Shenfu said a few words to the other party, and then asked Yang Mu to come forward. This is Jojo from the engine test workshop, and this is Yang Mu, a new researcher. You two should get to know each other. Yan Shenfu pulled the two people to introduce themselves, and Yang Mu immediately stretched out his hand with a smile on his face. Jojo's expression quickly became gentle, and he immediately shook Yang Mu's hand and said hello with a smile. The other party's hand was very strong, but there was no malice. It seemed that he was also a very special person. After the introduction, Jojo took Yan Shenfu and Yang Mu to visit here and introduced several engines that were being developed and tested. Yang Mu listened carefully. Although he could not ask any questions, Yang Mu's heart suddenly lit up. After a simple tour, Yan Shenfu took Yang Mu to the monitoring room here and introduced Yang Mu to the safety knowledge here. After saying this, Yan Shenfu seemed to be a little unsatisfied. Suddenly, under the watchful eyes of the guards, he picked up a microphone in the monitoring room. Everyone present saw what Mr. Yan did, but no one said anything, because after all, Mr. Yan was the absolute leader here. Yan Shenfu tried the microphone, and then the sound rang on everyone's work clothes. At the same time, the display screens embedded in the walls of each workshop lit up, revealing Yan Shenfu's face. Everyone slowly stopped their actions and looked at the screen. Yan Shenfu smiled and asked everyone to stop their work, and then told everyone that he had good news to announce. Today, a new researcher has come to our institute. His name is Yang Mu, and he is only in his early 20s. Yan Shenfu seemed very excited and pulled Yang Mu over to say hello. Yang Mu smiled and briefly introduced himself, like a child listening to the words of his elders. Everyone's face showed doubts, because there were countless researchers who entered the Mecha Research Institute before, but there had never been such a time to promote in front of everyone. But Yan Shenfu immediately dispelled their doubts and told them an amazing news. I, an old man, said this today to tell everyone that this young man in front of you will be my apprentice in the future, my last apprentice. I believe that under his leadership, our Mecha Research Institute, and even the entire National Institute of Science and Technology, will have new changes and will create even greater mechas. As soon as the voice fell, all places were silent. Then in the next moment, it was as noisy as the sea. Chapter 377 Jojo's Request. The news in the Mecha Research Institute spread quickly, and the neighboring Battleship Research Institute and Artillery Research Institute all knew the news a few days later. All researchers knew that the director of the Mecha Research Institute, the respected old man, had taken the initiative to accept apprentices after refusing to accept apprentices for many years, and the apprentice was a closed disciple. And that closed disciple was actually a young man in his early 20s, who seemed to have not even mastered the theoretical knowledge. Countless people beat their chests and stamped their feet, crying loudly that Mr. Yan had made a mistake, and were willing to challenge themselves to prove that they were better. Then they were pushed back to the laboratory by their respective supervisors to do their own research honestly. Yang Mu, who was in the Mecha Research Institute, was deeply watched in the past few days. Mr. Yan said a few simple words in the monitoring room, but it brought him great trouble. The most obvious thing was that the people in front of him began to stare at him one by one, and seemed to be full of injustice in their hearts. He wanted to say hello to them, but these people turned around and left. Yang Mu was left alone with his mouth open, not knowing what to do. The words that Yan Lao said the day before yesterday also shocked Yang Mu. For a moment, he did not expect that Yan Lao would make such a big fuss and announce himself as his last disciple in front of everyone. Yang Mu was very clear about Yan Lao's idea of accepting him as his disciple, and of course he never refused. It was just because he wanted to join the army during this period that this matter was put on hold. Yan Lao hurriedly pulled him here and announced such a thing. Obviously, Yan Lao did not want to wait any longer. He was afraid that Yang Mu would make new changes. This might be Yan Lao's last thought at the moment, and Yang Mu was actually ready. If Yan Lao did not mention this matter, he would also find Yan Lao in the near future to talk about this matter. But he did not expect it to be such a scene. Yan Lao's strength is obvious to all. He can become an absolute master in this field. No one does not want to learn something from Yan Lao. Yang Mu naturally does not want to miss this opportunity. Now that his position has been transferred here, working under Master Yan, he has more time. Yang Mu also wants to do something else. He hopes that Master Yan can become his master. Of course, after becoming Master Yan's last disciple, the current situation looks a bit bad. It seems that he has become the target of public criticism in an instant. Everyone looks at him as if someone has lucked out and they didn't. Yang Mu will not feel happy about such a thing, nor will he feel proud. Instead, after such a thing happened, Yang Mu has been thinking about what to do. If you want to wear the crown, you must bear its weight. What he has to do is to take practical actions in the future to make all this worthy of the name. Prove that he has the ability to become Master Yan's last disciple. Thinking of this, Yang Mu was ready to have a good talk with Master Yan, whom he had not seen for 2 days, listen to Master Yan's opinions, and choose his next research direction. But as soon as he went out, Yang Mu ran into someone, Jojo from the Mecha Engine Research Department who he had just met the day before yesterday. At this moment, the other party was passing by here. Seeing Yang Mu who had just walked out of the room, he immediately greeted him and walked over. Yang Mu? I haven't seen you for 2 days. You seem to be in good spirits. Jojo was very familiar with him and immediately teased him with a smile. Yang Mu could only return a somewhat forced smile. Brother Joe, you are joking. My mind has been a mess these past 2 days, Yang Mu said helplessly. Jojo immediately patted Yang Mu's shoulder and said with a smile, tell me if you have any problems. Since you call me brother, I will analyze them for you today. Let's go, it's time for dinner. Let's talk while we eat. Jojo patted Yang Mu's shoulder and walked forward. It did look a bit awkward for a man less than 1.7 meters tall to stand next to Yang Mu, who is 1.8 meters tall. However, the two of them chatted happily and walked towards the cafeteria together. Brother Joe, is your laboratory mainly engaged in the research of mecha engines? Yang Mu asked as he walked. Jojo nodded without denying it and said to Yang Mu with a serious face. Of course. Let's put it this way. People often say that a mecha has two important parts. One is the mecha energy battery, and the other is the mecha engine. Without the battery, the mecha cannot move. Without the engine, the mecha cannot move either. Batteries have become more difficult to develop in recent years, but the engine still has room for improvement, so the engine is now the top priority. Jojo talked freely, ordered a meal at the window, and took Yang Mu to sit on the side. Several staff members around greeted Jojo immediately after seeing him, and then saw Yang Mu and winked at him secretly. Everyone was a little curious about how Brother Joe, the thorn in the eyes of Master Yan, could get along so well with Master Yan's new apprentice. Yang Mu naturally didn't see the doubts of the people around him, because at this moment, Yang Mu's mind was full of questions about the mecha engine. Jojo was very knowledgeable and gave good answers to all the questions raised by Yang Mu. However, the questions Yang Mu asked were not theoretical. On the contrary, Yang Mu's questions were almost all related to the operation of the engine in actual combat. The questions were sharp and pointed directly to some engine problems in actual operation. Jojo was secretly surprised while explaining. Although Yang Mu in front of him looked young, many people might be deceived by his appearance. Although his theoretical knowledge was not very sufficient, the questions he asked were almost word by word, all pointing to the problems in the operation of the mecha engine. Moreover, he did not ask about the engine power at various percentage stages. The questions were basically about the engine state at full load and zero power. Jojo had almost covered these problems in his experiments over the years, and some of them were even obtained after multiple complex experiments. And the man in front of him almost spoke out and hit the nail on the head. The more they talked, the more surprised Jojo was, and the more he wondered why this strange boy in front of him was chosen by old Yan as his successor. He does have his advantages. This kind of insight is not something that ordinary people can have, especially at this age. We are still studying the explosion phenomenon of the left and right engines when the mecha turns at an acute angle. But this state is so extreme that few people can do it, and we don't have many parameters. Jojo was asked by Yang Mu. He didn't know how to explain it for a while. He could only say a few vague words and then pointed at the two people's plates. "Oh, the meal is over. I'm going to the research room. Do you want to go and see?" Jojo changed the subject at the right time. Yang Mu was stunned for a moment. His interest was interrupted. Yang Mu was a little surprised, but he shook his head. Because just now, Yang Mu had another specific plan in his mind. "No, Brother Joe, I still have to go to old Yan's place. I'll come to your place when I come back," Yang Mu said, and Jojo didn't stop him, but the expression on his face suddenly became a little subtle. "Yang Mu, Master Yan has indeed regarded you as his last disciple, right? Really? What's wrong? Are you sure?" "Absolutely." Yang Mu swallowed his saliva and suddenly felt that things were not simple. "That's right, Master Yan said it himself. How could it be fake?" When Jojo saw Yang Mu saying this, the expression on his face suddenly changed to a look of conspiracy, and then he looked straight at Yang Mu and said, "Yang Mu, you see, we have a good relationship now, and I would like to ask you for help with something." Jojo had been talking around for so long, and finally he couldn't help it. After hearing this, the expression on Yang Mu's face gradually changed. It turned out that he came so familiarly because he had something to do. Yang Mu was not the kind of guy who was hot-headed and could easily agree to any request from others. He and the other party had just known each other for a short time, and he wanted to ask for his help. Most of the time, he was attracted by his identity. Although they worked in the same place, he had to be on guard against others. "Brother Joe, you think too highly of me. Please tell me what the matter is first. I will definitely help if I can." Yang Mu carefully avoided the question and let the other party speak first. At this time, Jojo's face was completely indifferent. He immediately looked at Yang Mu excitedly and said, "That's great. In fact, there's nothing else. I just want you to help me get some raw materials from the raw material workshop. It's the Yaodi. Our laboratory's material quota has been used up. We can only rely on your quota, otherwise the experiment can't go on," Jojo said pitifully, looking very aggrieved. "What? Oh, if you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels." Chapter 378 Yang Mu's Choice. Yang Mu thought Jojo would make some tricky requests, but he didn't expect that he would ask them to use their quota to mobilize a batch of Yao iron materials for their laboratory. The reason was that Jojo had used all these materials in the crazy experiments a few days ago, which made the following experiment stretched. As a last resort, Jojo found Yang Mu, aiming at Yang Mu's identity as a close disciple, and was sure that Yang Mu could get some Yao iron materials from Yan Shenfu. Yang Mu almost covered his face, and it was really hard to express his thoughts at the moment. He could only agree to ask Yan Lao to see if he could give some materials. After saying this, Jojo shook his head with satisfaction and went to his laboratory, while Yang Mu went to Yan Shenfu's office on the other side. Yan Shenfu's office was actually a small room opened in the comprehensive office area of the Mecha Research Institute. There were lists of various supervisors around it, so that they could push the door in at any time to discuss related matters. Yang Mu asked a few people, and then successfully found this office that he had been to once. Pushing the door open, Yan Shenfu was leaning over the desk to check the relevant drawings. When he saw someone coming in, he looked up and saw that it was Yang Mu. He immediately put down what he was holding and said with a smile, "Little Mu, why are you here today?" Yan Shenfu left after announcing that Yang Mu would become his last disciple that day. He didn't care what Yang Mu thought at all, and just gave Yang Mu a few days to relax and let Yang Mu think about the department he would go to next. And now Yang Mu has come. What? Have you made a choice? Yan Shenfu gestured to Yang Mu to sit on the sofa at the side. Yang Mu nodded, sat upright in a corner of the sofa and looked at Yan Shenfu. Yan Shenfu saw Yang Mu's restrained movements, but didn't say anything. The two looked at each other, and Yang Mu immediately spoke. Teacher, I think I have decided which department to work in. Decided? Then tell me where you want to go, Yan Shenfu asked with interest, waiting for Yang Mu's answer. At the beginning, he was involved in the matter of Yang Mu's transfer back to Yanhurong Star, and he spent a lot of effort to get him into the Mecha Research Institute. He saw Yang Mu's ability and was also prepared to use national means to make Yang Mu settle down. Didn't he want to go to the battlefield? I didn't stop him, and I'll let him participate in a war. Now that he has had his fun, it's time to start normal work. Because of this, Yang Mu's position was not directly determined, but he was given the right to choose. Of course, this was not Yan Shenfu's request, but Su's Henai's suggestion. Teacher, I want to go to the Mecha Engine Research Department. Mecha Engine Research Department. Yan Shenfu nodded slightly, then froze for a moment, looked back at Yang Mu, and said loudly, no more? That's it, no, what else? Yang Mu heard his teacher's surprised answer and asked with some confusion. Yan Shenfu's expression was embarrassed and he coughed. Xiao Mu, isn't the Mecha General Design Department good? Or you can go to the Mecha Firepower Research Department. The Mecha Engine Research Department can be a small link, and you can go there to learn later, Yan Shenfu said earnestly, as if he was very dissatisfied with Yang Mu's decision. Yang Mu was a little stunned. He didn't know why the teacher would say such a thing. It stands to reason that this is a core department and you can also learn a lot, but why does the teacher seem to be very dissatisfied? Teacher, is there any problem if I go there? Of course there is no problem, but, Yan Shenfu paused for a moment, and a trace of resentment appeared on his face. He slowly said, actually, it's nothing, it's just that the person in charge Jojo has a bad temper. Yan Shenfu said so, and Yang Mu's face was full of question marks. Although he didn't spend much time with Jojo today, Yang Mu, who knew how to deal with people, also saw something. Jojo was a technology fanatic, obsessed with designing and researching engines, and had a good temper. At least when he walked with him before, many people greeted him, and he seemed to have a good relationship with people. No, teacher. I had dinner with senior brother Joe today. He's very talkative. Yang Mu asked questions with a burning gaze. Yan Shenfu's old face turned red and he simply gave a general idea. It turned out that old Yan and Jojo didn't get along. As the dean of the Mecha Research Institute, Yan Shenfu should be respected, not to mention flattery, let alone a mortal enemy of old Yan. But Jojo was an exception, because when he entered the Mecha Research Institute, he argued with Yan Shenfu several times because Yan Shenfu wanted to point out several design errors and possible defects. Jojo refused and insisted on doing so, shocking all his friends. But it didn't end at this time. Yan Shenfu thought he was a promising talent and wanted to give him some more advice, but Jojo wanted to contradict him. Once he even said old man in front of Yan Shenfu, and the two sides started to argue. But Jojo is indeed a promising talent. He conducted many experiments on the engine with obvious defects he designed, and actually solved the problems of related engines when there were no such defects, and obtained many valuable experimental data. In addition, Jojo also designed a new set of test methods through his own efforts, and proved the feasibility of the Mecha engine in many ways, which once accelerated the development process of the engine. Relying on the strength of the shining stars, Jojo conquered everyone and became the head of the Mecha Engine Research Department in one fell swoop. However, this guy still refused to give in. Although he no longer called Yan Shenfu an old man under the education from above, and he never said much about the general direction of the design, he would never listen to Yan Shenfu's arrangements in the small direction. Although Yan Shenfu was open-minded, after a long time, the old naughty boy always had some different ideas in his heart. And that day when he took Yang Mu to his workshop to introduce him, he immediately announced that Yang Mu would become his last disciple. There was a little trick in it, that is, Yan Shenfu wanted to take Yang Mu to disgust Jojo. Since you are unique and want to attract my attention, I will tell you that I have found a good seedling, so that you will regret it. Seeing Yan Shenfu talking about this with his eyes wide open and his beard blowing, Yang Mu couldn't help laughing. He wanted to cover his face again, not knowing what to say. So, Zio Mu, that place is not very good either. The teacher has no objection, but I still suggest that you go to other departments to learn, so that you can enrich your knowledge. Yan Xianfu said this with some embarrassment, and said with a righteous face, looking at Yang Mu, hoping that Yang Mu would change his mind. Yang Mu smiled, looked at Yan Xianfu, and said, "Teacher, didn't you give me the right to choose? Now that you said that about seeing your brother Jojo, I am even more curious. I really want to go," Yan Xianfu asked, and Yang Mu nodded. "Go, but we have to make a deal. You have to be tougher, don't let him destroy your prestige. After all, you are my disciple," Yan Xianfu said to Yang Mu at this moment, like a child who is angry after a fight. Yang Mu knew that Yan Xianfu didn't really care about these things. He hoped that he could learn more comprehensive knowledge so that he could better inherit his mantle. "Don't worry, teacher. I will also take time to study in other departments to ensure all-round development without missing out on anything," Yang Mu promised loudly. Yan Xianfu immediately laughed a few times and said yes. Seeing that things were almost finished, Yang Mu remembered what Brother Jojo had asked him to do and asked casually, "Teacher, during dinner, Brother Jojo wanted to use my quota to extract a batch of raw materials for Yaodi research for their laboratory. There shouldn't be any problem." "Oh, didn't ask, huh?" Chapter 379 Participation in the Test. The request made by Yang Mu was finally met by Yan Xianfu, and Yang Mu also realized how different his identity was in the Mecha Research Institute. The authority and resource quota that he could reach as a researcher and Yan's old disciple were beyond the reach of many ordinary researchers. In terms of authority, he could almost access information that could only be accessed by the director level of each research department. As for quotas, there are such regulations in the Mecha Research Institute because many research departments need various resources when conducting research, and the reason for setting quotas is that some precious materials cannot be wasted at will, and on the other hand, it is also to prevent these people from taking these things out. And this quota is generally supplied by department. The heads of each department will have additional quotas, and key projects and senior researchers will also have corresponding quotas. As a disciple of Yan Xianfu also gave Yang Mu a very sufficient quota so that he could have sufficient materials for research. Just for the Yaodi, which is still in short supply, Yang Mu actually has a quota of 1 kilogram per month, which is equivalent to the quota of 5 department heads. Upon hearing the news, Yang Mu immediately went to the raw material workshop to withdraw his quota, and carried a box of Yao iron particles to the Mecha Engine Research Department. In fact, Yang Mu made the decision to go to the Mecha Engine Research Department, thanks to the fact that he had been in contact with things about engines for 2 days here, and during the conversation with Jojo, Yang Mu felt that this person was a real person, and also had very good knowledge, which coincided with his own ideas. Maybe Mr. Yan saw his talent in mecha design and wanted him to go to the mecha design department, but Yang Mu knew that it was only because he had made a few drawings in his mind, but he didn't need to design them all now, because the styles of those insect mechas were too different from the existing Muling mechas. No matter how a designer innovates his design, there must be a shadow of his past designs on it. This kind of thing rooted in his personal thinking is almost difficult to completely abandon. And if a person's design is completely different from the previous one, it is not a genius, it is a monster. Although it will attract the attention of many people, it will definitely cause trouble. The engine is different. It is a smaller design. Yang Mu can design the engines of those mechas first, and then develop the entire mecha. In this way, the convergence will be reflected, and naturally many doubts will be dispelled. What's more, Yang Mu doesn't just want to make the engine of the mecha. He still has several drawings of anti-insect warships in his mind. Thinking of this, Yang Mu also strode to Jojo's Mecha Engine Research Department. As soon as he arrived here, a scorching breath came to his face. Although he had put on noise-canceling headphones, the rumbling sound could still make his heart tremble quickly. Yang Mu carried something in. Jojo, who was directing the experiment, immediately saw Yang Mu and the box in Yang Mu's hand, and immediately walked over with a big laugh. "Haha, brother Yang Mu, why are you here? What's this thing in your hand?" Jojo said with a smile, but his eyes were always fixed on the box in Yang Mu's hand. Yang Mu smiled, put down the box and opened it, revealing a face full of bright silver iron material. Seeing this, Jojo immediately smiled, unable to stop grinning. Yang Mu naturally saw Jojo's expression, and immediately said, "Brother Joe, I brought you the things You must take good care of me in the future. Hey, okay, what? Take good care of me. Jojo agreed with a smile on his face, but suddenly heard something different inside, and was stunned for a moment. Yang Mu had to explain to the other party that he decided to transfer here to work, and hoped that Jojo would be generous with his advice in the future. Jojo's expression suddenly stiffened when he heard the news, but he immediately recovered after a moment, and immediately said that it was no problem and he would do his best to help Yang Mu. Yang Mu could also guess why he was stunned for a moment. The apprentice of the old man who he liked to contradict the most came to him, and said that he wanted to learn from him. Now it seems that he is more skilled. Even Yan Shenfu's apprentice has to work under him, but when the technology is learned, Yan Shenfu will start to laugh. But Jojo obviously didn't care about these. Yang Mu didn't admit his mistake. Jojo was a very open person. He immediately greeted Yang Mu and everyone in the laboratory, and arranged for Yang Mu to do the entry-level test record work. However, the 2 kilograms of Yao iron sand were held tightly in his arms at this moment. Yang Mu greeted everyone, got familiar with the laboratory for a day, and got familiar with some things, and then prepared to go to work officially. Let Darren adjust the engine jet and replace the butterfly jet. If you can't do it today, none of you can go out. You are not allowed to eat or sleep, Jojo roared in the mecha engine laboratory, like crazy. At this moment, Jojo seemed to reveal his true face under his smiling face. Jojo was indeed a workaholic, especially with the Yao iron materials brought to him by Yang Mu. The whole person was almost like chicken blood, constantly arranging various experiments. Although Yang Mu was only an intern for the time being, he mostly did some design improvements and test record work, but he was also a little shocked by the momentum brought by the other party. Jojo was able to achieve different achievements not only because he had unique ideas about engines, but also because his fanatical work attitude was unmatched by many people. Yang Mu, come here. Yang Mu was thinking this when he heard the other party calling his name. He quickly stood up and looked over. He saw Jojo standing next to a mecha-like shelf with various engines placed on it, and it seemed that he was preparing to conduct relevant experiments. This experiment is actually to install the various engines and jets of the mecha on a mecha model with only a shelf according to the actual position of the mecha, and then connect the virtual cockpit at the other end to measure the data of the engine running in various states through simulated driving. The reason why this did not use computer data, but simply use this manual test method, to put it bluntly, is to make the entire experiment look more in line with the actual operation of the mecha warrior, so as to obtain more accurate data. Yang Mu trotted over and quickly pushed the data panel on one side over, while holding another data panel in his hand, ready to record. Seeing Yang Mu quickly prepare for recording, Jojo didn't say anything, but his expression was still a little gloomy, and then he called on others to start the experiment. Mech Engine Control Jet Experiment, Project number 605032, Experiment number 0120, start now. Yang Mu quickly put on the headset and said to the person in the virtual cockpit, and then started it. After a while, the engine of the mech began to warm up in all directions, and then the flame of each jet nozzle changed from blue to red. At the same time, the entire mount began to flip and twist in various ways, and the heat wave spread to the surroundings. Various sensors arranged around and on the racks began to collect data and transmit all to many screens. Yang Mu kept looking up and down, integrating and recording some important data, but halfway through, Jojo, who was watching the engine dynamics on the other side, immediately stopped the experiment. The original action designed by the mech was not completed, and the data was completely useless. Start over, the engine jet action is not in place at all, and nothing new can be tested, Jojo shouted loudly in the channel, and at this time there was no sound in the cockpit. After a while, the hatch opened, and a long-haired beauty in a white jumpsuit came out. She had a waterfall of black hair and a baby face, which looked very cute, but also had a slightly sharp temperament, which made people's eyes bright. Mr. Joe, don't go too far. The baby-faced beauty was called Fang Ying, an engine designer and test mecha warrior here. At this moment, her eyebrows were raised and she stared at Jojo fiercely. I am an engine maker, not a professional mecha warrior. I can't complete the action you said. You go find a professional mecha warrior, the baby-faced girl said indignantly, and hammered the outer shell of the cockpit with her fist. Why can't you do it? Don't you have a mecha warrior qualification certificate? Jojo was not afraid and immediately retorted, but the baby-faced girl was unwilling to give in. So what if there is one? Even professionals may not be able to do this kind of action. Why don't you go ask Mr. Yan and ask him to find you an ace mecha soldier, maybe he can complete this task, Feng Ying said loudly, but Jojo seemed to have been caught in a weak spot. This, Xiao Feng, you know that such talents can't be asked for from the military. The ones asked for are from the equipment department, and we don't have the authority to do it. I don't care. You've said no so many times. I won't do it anymore. I won't do it no matter what. Feng Ying's temper is probably very fierce. She didn't give Jojo any face at all. After she finished speaking, she sat down on a chair beside her in a rage. Jojo looked embarrassed and walked over to persuade her kindly. Feng Ying snorted and didn't say anything. Jojo was so anxious that he stomped his feet there. Yang Mu, who was watching all this, raised his eyebrows. Although it was a bit presumptuous, looking at the current situation, Yang Mu touched his nose and slowly spoke. Well, Minister Zhou, how about I try? Chapter 380 Feng Ying's Little Thoughts. Yang Mu's words stunned everyone in the field. Jojo was also stunned for a moment, and immediately looked over. Even Feng Ying, who turned her head to look at the side, turned her head to look at Yang Mu. Yang Mu glanced at the people around him, then looked back at Jojo, only to find that the other party had walked in front of him, staring at him with red eyes. Yang Mu shuddered and looked at the other party. Yang Mu, what did you just say? Jojo seemed to be a little unconvinced by what Yang Mu said, and immediately asked. I said, if Sister Feng is tired, I can also try. Do you have a mecha qualification certificate? This is what Jojo asked. Do you have the ability of an ace mecha? This is what Feng Ying asked right after. Yang Mu first glanced at Feng Ying in the distance, then looked back at Jojo, and called up his personal information. There was a clear line of words on it, Mecha Association Certified Mecha. Jojo glanced at it and confirmed that it was indeed correct. The gloomy face suddenly became less serious. A hand immediately grabbed it and pulled Yang Mu towards the virtual cockpit. Okay, then it's your turn. You should know the specific steps, right? How about I let you familiarize yourself with them first, Jojo said anxiously, not giving Yang Mu any chance to prepare. Before Yang Mu could say anything, Feng Ying, who was sitting next to him, stood up and walked over quickly, blocking the cockpit. No, he is definitely not qualified for this task, Feng Ying said firmly, with a very stubborn look on her face. Jojo looked up at Feng Ying with an unhappy face and asked back, Comrade Xiao Feng, you just said that you don't want to drive anymore. It's not too much for me to find someone else, right? Of course it's not too much to find someone, but he can't do it. Feng Ying paused, still saying stubbornly. Why can't he do it? He is completely unfamiliar with the procedures here, and he doesn't even know the experimental steps. How can we get mature data? Although he is a mecha warrior, does he have the ability of an ace mecha warrior, so he is completely incapable of this task? I am more or less qualified, Feng Ying explained, looking at Jojo with a somewhat cramped look, and said viciously. Yang Mu saw something different. This Sister Feng seemed to be interested in Brother Zhou. Yang Mu didn't say anything, but Jojo was arguing with Feng Ying at this moment. His focus on the task made Jojo completely unable to care about anything else at this moment. He didn't care about anything else. He just wanted to give it a try. You don't need to say anything. Let you rest for a while. If he says it's okay, it's okay. It's better to treat a dead horse as a living horse than to let this project be temporarily shelved here, Jojo said loudly, then threw the holographic helmet to Yang Mu, swept away Feng Ying who was blocking in front of him, and pushed Yang Mu into the cockpit. Feng Ying, who was pushed away, gritted her teeth in hatred at this moment, and looked at Yang Mu with eyes like a lioness who wanted to eat people. But Yang Mu didn't care about these. He was working on a scientific research project, so there was no need to be polite. He immediately put on the holographic helmet, started the cockpit, and checked various data. Do you know the test process? Do you want me to send you another document to confirm it? Jojo, who was standing by, stuck his head into the cockpit and asked Yang Mu as he continued to operate. No, I have participated in this experiment several times before, and I understand most of the process. That's fine, listen to my instructions. Jojo saw Yang Mu nod, and he also retreated. The hatch closed, and the entire cockpit was instantly quiet. The next moment, the cockpit was fully started, and the holographic helmet showed a virtual flat ground. At the same time, Jojo's voice came from the headset. Are you ready, Ready, okay, Mecha Engine Control Jet Experiment, Project number 605032, Experiment number 0121, start now. As JoJo's voice sounded, Yang Mu stared at the flat ground in the virtual picture, then started the engine, and the entire virtual mecha in the holographic helmet slowly rose into the air. Start the first test project. The pattern in front is running. The mecha is tilted at a 30-degree angle to the ground. After 2 circles, the angle rises to 45 degrees, JoJo's voice sounded again. Yang Mu took a deep breath and moved the hands inserted in the card slot. The picture in front of him changed rapidly. At the same time, many engines on the mecha rack outside also started to work. It seemed that there was not much difference from the previous experimental steps. Fang Ying, who was standing outside watching all this, was still angry at the moment. Her eyes kept on the mecha engine rack and JoJo, who was concentrating. This dead idiot, a rotten wood, didn't understand my thoughts at all. He only cared about the engine every day and didn't care about himself or me. Fang Ying and JoJo graduated from the same college and the same major. The two met because they participated in the same project in school. They had a good relationship. Moreover, JoJo had made a name for himself in mecha design in college. I admired a senior brother in my heart. It was not easy for her to come here with him to work, but this guy was a complete workaholic. He spent his vacation time on research and ignored any of her requests to go out together. The reason why Fang Ying did this today was not because Fang Ying didn't want to do this kind of work anymore, but because Fang Ying felt sorry for JoJo. This guy, once he started researching, completely ignored his body. The dark circles and bloodshot eyes showed that he lacked sleep, but he didn't want to stop and rest for a moment. There was still plenty of time for this project, but he didn't want to rest at all. Fang Ying had no choice but to think of this method to stop the experiment temporarily, and then she could persuade him to take a rest. But how could the new disciple of Master Yan in the laboratory be so unromantic and want to show off so much? Fang Ying was very angry at Yang Mu for suddenly appearing and disrupting her plan, and she felt very uncomfortable watching the actions made by the other party driving the mecha. But gradually, Fang Ying's eyes widened and her mouth slowly opened as she stared at the engine and JoJo. Because just now, this new guy actually drove this mecha to simulate a difficult action. This action simulates a mecha's engine shutting down at an altitude of 10,000 meters, and the nozzle facing upwards to rapidly rise 20 meters above the ground. Nothing can be seen on the engine on the shelf, but the computer-assisted prompt next to it indicates that the action is successful. And the feeling of the surrounding heat wave sweeping away, let Fang Ying know that this action is really successful. Such a difficult action requires a lot of luck even for experienced mecha warriors. Maybe this is just the luck of this person. Yes, it must be luck. Fang Ying was firm in her thoughts, but just a moment later, there was another new difficult action. Before the action was over, a new super difficult mecha action was connected again. If one action is accidental, 2 actions are luck, then 3 actions. This guy can't really have the strength of an ace mecha warrior? Fang Ying, who was standing aside and watching all this, suddenly had this thought in her mind. Chapter 381 JoJo's Excitement. Fang Ying was not the only one who had this thought in her mind. Many people in the field also saw this scene. From the people who were staring at the project, to the other researchers who were originally doing other work but were attracted by it, everyone's eyes were constantly switching between the mecha engine in the laboratory and the action judgment on the computer screen. Everyone was watching this seemingly incredible scene, watching the mecha engine complete various predetermined actions again and again. JoJo, who saw all this, was already excited at the moment. He didn't expect that Yang Mu's self-recommendation, because he wanted this experiment to be completed earlier, was finally rushed, and in the end, Yang Mu actually had such advanced technology. The set actions were transmitted to Yang Mu's cockpit one by one, and then the computer displayed the picture to judge that Yang Mu's mecha action was successfully completed. The data sent by each sensor was quite different from before. All of this showed that the data that could be collected in this experiment was even beyond the reach of hundreds of experiments before, and these data were even more precious. JoJo's face was full of excitement and he couldn't control it at all. In the cockpit, Yang Mu was concentrating on completing the designated actions uploaded from the holographic helmet. The movements of his hands kept changing, and with the stepping of his feet, the entire mecha completed the actions one by one in the virtual screen in the smoothest posture. These actions were not designed reasonably. Some very dangerous actions would not even be seen in actual combat. For example, the free fall of 10,000 meters before, and then pulling up in the shortest time. Such actions are almost impossible to achieve in reality, because the acceleration of tens of thousands of meters is enough to make the mecha enter a state of stall. But there is such a requirement here. I also tried my best to do it, but I didn't expect to succeed in the end. After completing such actions, the following actions will naturally have some confidence. Although the actions are all difficult, for Yang Mu, as long as he is careful, it is not impossible to complete. But at this moment, he had no idea that the mecha driving skills he fully displayed would be so amazing to the researchers outside. Everyone gathered around and watched Yang Mu's brilliant performance. But just when everyone was immersed in the wonderful scenes brought by this smooth and gorgeous move, the engines on the mecha racks in the laboratory could not hold on. Several engines suddenly emitted black smoke, and then a buzzing sound was heard. The next moment, an explosion sounded. Although it was separated from the crowd by glass, everyone was quickly pulled back to reality by this situation. The picture in the computer gradually stopped, and the alarm sounded in the field. Jojo pressed the fire button, and the isolated engine test room was now filled with white smoke for fire extinguishing. Yang Mu knew that something happened outside at the first time, and the picture in the cockpit also stopped quickly. Yang Mu took off his helmet and got out of it. As soon as he got out, Yang Mu saw that the place separated by glass not far away was now white, and next to him, there was a group of people standing. As soon as he got out of the cockpit, these people looked at him one after another. Looking at the expressions of these people who looked like they had seen a ghost, Yang Mu swallowed unconsciously, but saw Jojo not far away walking towards him at this time. Jojo walked briskly, with a smile on his face. "Sorry, Minister, I didn't expect the engine to be in such a state." Jojo walked to his side, and Yang Mu apologized immediately, pointing to the messy engine room next to him. But Jojo didn't care about this at all, and immediately grabbed Yang Mu's shoulders, and said excitedly, "Yang Mu, I didn't expect that you actually have such a level of mecha operation. We couldn't find such a tester in our laboratory before. The data collected this time is much more useful than before. I've decided, we will let you do our engine testing in the future," Jojo said loudly as if he had found a treasure. The people around him were confused, and Yang Mu was the same. Fang Ying, who was standing not far away, came over at this time and pulled Jojo, who looked crazy. "It's collected, so what are you excited about?" Fang Ying said to Jojo, then turned her head and shifted her gaze to Yang Mu, looking at Yang Mu. "Sister Fang," Yang Mu grinned at her, and his expression was a little embarrassed. "After all, I have made these actions now, and Sister Fang just said that these things can't be done. My behavior is a bit like slapping her in the face." Fang Ying seemed to not care about these things at all. She just kept looking at Yang Mu, and poked the tall young man in front of her from time to time, as if looking at a rare treasure. "Boy, what did you do before?" Fang Ying looked at Yang Mu for a long time, and then asked. Yang Mu touched his nose and was about to answer, but Jojo, who was standing next to him, spoke at this time, patting Yang Mu's shoulder and said loudly, "He must be a good student who is willing to learn, otherwise how could he have such good skills? I have decided that Yang Mu will be my best brother in the future." Fang Ying, who was standing next to him, rolled her eyes at Jojo, and then looked at Yang Mu again. Yang Mu was not prepared to hide it, and said immediately, "Before coming here, I served in the army for almost a year, and was a squad leader in a mecha regiment." As soon as Yang Mu said this, Fang Ying's expression on her face was somewhat clear, but her eyes still lingered on Yang Mu's face. It is absolutely impossible to be completely convinced that such superb mecha driving skills can be achieved in just 1 year. Yang Mu had to say again, "I had pretty good mecha driving skills when I was in school." Hearing this, Fang Ying nodded, but her eyes still did not move away. Yang Mu had to use the method of making a feint to the east and attacking in the west. "Minister, the laboratory is not usable now, what should we do?" Jojo's expression on his face was also stunned when he heard this, and he also realized this problem, while Fang Ying's face flashed a hint of joy in an instant. "Oh, it looks like it will not be usable for a while. It seems that we need to find someone to clean it. Let's take a short break," Fang Ying said, and Jojo nodded at the right time. "Okay, I'll arrange the cleaning right away." Jojo said this, and immediately turned around, but was pulled by Fang Ying. "You dead idiot, there are so many people here, what are you doing? Go and take a rest, let Xiao Mu do this." Fang Ying said this, and also gave Yang Mu a look. Yang Mu also immediately understood why, and nodded in response. Jojo did not refuse. After talking to Yang Mu for a few words, Feng Ying pulled him out of the research department. Looking at the two people, Yang Mu felt that they were asking questions. He muttered to himself, but saw that everyone around him was looking at him. He was stunned for a moment. Yang Mu smiled at his colleagues and hurried to clean the laboratory. But the people around him immediately whispered. However, one day, the entire Mecha Research Institute knew about one thing. It turned out that the new disciple of Master Yang had just returned from serving in the army, and he had the operating level comparable to that of an ace Mecha soldier. Chapter 382 New Ideas. When Jojo was dragged by Feng Yinqiang to take a break, Yang Mu had already arrived at the engine test room with cleaning tools. In fact, after the white smoke dissipated, although there was some chaos here, it was not as messy as imagined. The laboratory used carbon dioxide to extinguish the fire, which not only isolated oxygen but also protected these precision instruments from damage. Therefore, most of the scattered pieces on the ground at this moment were engine fragments, as well as some surrounding equipment damaged by the engine explosion. Yang Mu put the cleaning tools in his hand aside, walked in carefully, then stopped, lowered his head, and picked up a small piece of debris under his feet. This was a piece that had already appeared charred due to the burning, but when turning it over in his hand, you could still see the colorful streamer color of the fragment. The fragment was square, with obvious cracks on the corners and sharp fractures. After carefully examining it, Yang Mu recognized that it was the internal part of the engine, the blade of the turbine inside the engine. The reason why the mecha's engine uses a jet engine is only because this kind of engine can make the mecha's movement reach the maximum speed on the planet, which is faster than the internal transmission of electricity. Of course, there are more advanced radiation engines, but that kind of engine is used in space mechas. Planet mechas generally use jet engines, and of course they can be replaced when used in space wars. However, the current jet engines are also very different from the original ones. The early mechas used nuclear engines, so the gas in the jet port will be heated, and the blades will rotate, which will bring huge driving force. Now the engine uses energy batteries, and the air inside is compressed and ejected. Because the air is pushed out faster by the stirring of the blades, it will also produce flames, and this flame is caused by the huge friction caused by the rapid passage. But precisely because of this, the temperature brought by the current mecha engine will be higher. When completing some difficult actions, the amount of air compressed and pushed out by these engines in a short time will be greater, and with this, the temperature will be higher. Such a high temperature has higher requirements for the blade material. The fragment in front of him seems to be broken because of this situation. Yang Mu made a slight judgment in his mind, put down the fragments in his hand, and then collected the surrounding fragments. These fragments are also scientific research data. When the time comes, they will be fully reproduced to find out the cause of the explosion and the specific location. So Yang Mu picked them up very carefully and placed them in the holographic scanner next to him for scanning. The instrument next to him quickly arranged the suspended positions of each fragment to form a virtual model. Yang Mu was doing this seriously, and at this time the door of the test room opened. Yang Mu looked over and found that it was a colleague from the research department named Jeping. Jeping was already 40 years old. His main job was to conduct preliminary research on failed experiments. Now he came here just for this matter. Jeping came over and immediately saw Yang Mu. He immediately greeted him. Yang Mu also stood up immediately and smiled and shouted, "Uncle Jep." Jeping was stunned for a moment, and immediately responded with a smile. But the next moment, Jeping started his work. First, he carefully removed all the engines on the mecha rack one by one, then checked the damaged engines and numbered them again. At the same time, he quickly inspected each component to detect their specific conditions at the moment. Yang Mu was also called over to help. He quickly scanned the fragments on the ground, and then quickly drew a virtual restoration map with the help of the computer, and pre-assembled it with the original engine, while simulating the scattered positions. The supercomputer gave many solutions, which helped reduce a lot of workload, but Jeping was still comparing the models in detail. Yang Mu, who had finished cleaning, quietly stood aside and watched Jeping work. Watching Jeping manually assemble the fragments into parts, Yang Mu couldn't help but think that Uncle Ge's skills were very good. At least he could find the corresponding position immediately after taking a look, and it was exactly the same as the position given by the computer. Not only that, while Uncle Ge was assembling, he also recorded the traces of the fragments and the preliminary inference. Yang Mu praised the meticulous reverse deduction method again and again. Jeping occasionally looked up at the big boy standing next to him, staring at his work intently, and occasionally mentioned a few points of attention. Look at this fragment. Its center is concave, but the surroundings are curled. At first glance, it looks like it broke and then collided with other parts in the engine, but in fact, it was first hit in the middle by other fragments, and then it was twisted and broken around after deformation, which is why it looks like this. Jeping took a component and explained it carefully to Yang Mu, and then used tweezers to pick up a fragment from the side. The corner of that fragment merged with this fragment, and that corner just matched the concave part in the middle of the fragment. Yang Mu looked at it carefully and nodded solemnly. Seeing Yang Mu's eagerness to learn, Jeping was also very satisfied. He laughed twice and pointed to another place again. The parts were arranged, and Jeping quickly found out the reason. It was because the surface of a blade was not completely polished and smooth, and uneven heating occurred under high temperature, which caused the blade to break and explode under high temperature and high-speed rotation. At the same time, the surrounding blades were twisted off, and finally destroyed the surrounding engine, leading to the entire explosion. Seeing all this, Jeping couldn't help but sigh, saying that it was a pity that the experiment failed, which was not due to design fault, and it also caused the loss of several engines. Yang Mu, who was standing nearby, naturally knew the whole story, but he also understood that it was a good thing for such a design to appear here, because as long as this problem was paid attention to here, it would be applied in practice at that time to better ensure the safety of the mecha soldiers. Uncle Jep, I see that this engine has a lot of power. Will such a power output also be an important reason for the damage to the engine? Yang Mu spoke at the right time and expressed his thoughts. Uncle Jep, who was writing a report at this time, also looked over and nodded. Indeed, this engine is used by a heavy mecha, and its power is larger than that of ordinary mechas. In addition, a very intense experiment was just conducted, and the defects of the blades were instantly magnified, so this situation occurred. Yang Mu also nodded in his heart. Indeed, the various actions he had just made required the engine to have ultra-high-intensity explosive power in a short period of time. Such an explosion would bring huge pressure to the engine, and the temperature would also rise to an extremely high value in a shorter time, which would greatly increase the high temperature pressure on some materials. Uncle Jep, is this engine still the most commonly used engine? Yang Mu asked this question again, thinking of the Mulan mecha he had originally designed. The jet nozzle of that mecha had some changes, and the form of blades compressing and pushing air was almost eliminated, which was very different from this one. That's not the case. There are many other engines now, such as full-channel engines that automatically form pressure through multiple air intakes, and more brutal semi-enclosed air chamber engines, but in terms of stability and output power, this engine is the most stable. Jeping finished his report and added again, of course, the radiation engine used in space is better, but the cost performance is also there. Yang Mu also understood that this traditional jet engine is the most cost-effective design, but Yang Mu suddenly remembered a design in the drawings in his mind. Uncle Jep, what about the hybrid engine of the radiation engine and the jet engine? That should be able to solve many of the disadvantages of the jet engine, and the price will not be too high, Yang Mu asked with interest, but Uncle Jep smiled and explained again. We have been developing and improving that engine for a long time, but unfortunately, we have not been able to put it into practical use until now, and it is still in the experimental design stage. Yang Mu also remembered that he had not seen this engine in 20 years, and it seemed that there was indeed a technical barrier. What is the reason? Yang Mu asked thoroughly. Uncle Jep had already walked to the door, pushed it open, turned around, and gave Yang Mu an answer. The hot air and the radiation flow are stirring each other. The engine can't stand such a movement at all. It will explode directly when used at high power. The explosion is terrible. After saying this, Uncle Jep left here, but Yang Mu was stunned for a moment. I didn't expect this kind of engine to have such serious consequences of failure, but the design in my mind couldn't have overcome this problem. Maybe this is a direction that can be tried. Chapter 383 Yunlong arrives. Yang Mu's idea was very simple. He wanted to take these engines as an opportunity to try to improve the drawings in his mind and draw them out. This would definitely bring different changes to the mecha engine. He did what he said. In the following period of time, Yang Mu was looking up the design data of various engines, and constantly consulted Yan Shenfu and colleagues in the department about relevant knowledge. He also actively participated in every engine experiment. Of course, Yang Mu still had the fate of being a laborer. In many engine tests, as long as they were advanced engine tests, Yang Mu was almost a test pilot. Fang Ying was freed from it and could do her own design work wholeheartedly, which made Yang Mu a little envious. However, the work continued. Working in the urgent atmosphere created by Jojo in the research department every day, Yang Mu's work efficiency was greatly improved. With the help of various knowledge, Yang Mu had designed a basic drawing. The internal structure still needed theoretical research. Yang Mu was ready to communicate with the teacher first. Of course, during this period, Mr. Yan often helped Yang Mu answer some design questions and asked him what design he was doing recently. Yang Mu kept it a secret and did not explain it to Mr. Yan in detail, but Mr. Yan also knew that Yang Mu was probably doing something related to the design engine. On the second day, he sent Yang Mu a few chips, which were all the information that Mr. Yan had integrated himself, as well as some drawings, some design drawings, and some experimental images. These things greatly enriched Yang Mu's database, but because of so much data, Yang Mu was also very busy and had no time to work every day. But on one of these busy days, Yang Mu received a message, to be precise, a notice from the external guard of the Mecha Research Institute. Yunlong came and was waiting for him outside. Yunlong originally arrived at Yanherong Star with Yang Mu, but after entering the Yanherong Star spaceport, he received a message from the National Guard, asking him to report to the relevant station immediately. Yang Mu didn't know what this series of messages wanted Yunlong to do, but after all, he had arrived at Yanherong Star, and his own safety issues had become dispensable, so Yang Mu let Yunlong go directly. Until now, half a month later, I actually received the news that Yunlong had arrived here, and the other party had already arrived here. I had to verify the relevant information myself. Thinking of this, Yang Mu immediately put down his work and ran to the Institute's External Security Department. When he arrived at the External Security Department, a sturdy man first checked Yang Mu's ID, and then took Yang Mu into the hall, and Yang Mu immediately saw Yunlong sitting on a chair on one side of the hall. Yunlong, why are you here? Yang Mu immediately walked over and asked with a smile. Yunlong also stood up and looked at Yang Mu. Brother Mu, I'm here to take up a post. Take up a post? Here, Yang Mu asked in surprise, and Yunlong nodded, yes, and I'm still with you. Yang Mu was even more confused after hearing this, but Yunlong explained it carefully. It turned out that after Yunlong and Yang Mu separated from the spaceport that day, he was directly picked up by the National Guard, and the purpose of taking him over was also very simple, that is, to assess Yunlong and see if he was qualified for this position as Yang Mu's guard. In the past half-month, Yunlong has been undergoing various training and assessments, but even so, Yunlong's results are more dazzling than those of others. No one expected that Yunlong, who seemed to be skinny and small, actually had such a strong power. Whether it was close combat, design, or mecha driving, Yunlong's results were among the best. He also successfully passed the test of the National Guard and became a member of the National Guard. He was proud to continue to be assigned to Yang Mu as a guard. And because Yang Mu's identity was special, Yunlong's identity was also slightly concealed. On the surface, he was Yang Mu's work assistant, but in fact he was doing the work of a guard. Moreover, Yunlong was still equipped with the original special defense equipment, and it was also upgraded, and the protective effect was even stronger. Yang Mu was a little stunned when he heard all this. He thought Yunlong was going to serve in a better army, but he didn't expect that he would still be his guard, but he just concealed his identity. However, Yunlong was able to pass the test of the National Guard so quickly. It seems that Yunlong's own skills are also strong enough. As he was saying this, an outside guard came over and handed Yunlong several certificates in his hand. These certificates would be Yunlong's pass here, and the reason for calling Yang Mu over was to confirm whether Yunlong was the assistant position he applied for. Now that all the certificates were ready, the two immediately walked into the base. Along the way, Yang Mu introduced the situation here to Yunlong and introduced the workshops around him. Although Yunlong listened carefully, he didn't know whether he could understand Yang Mu. Yunlong, are there many assistants like you? For example, there are other people like you in our base. Yang Mu suddenly thought of this question and asked. Yunlong shook his head, I don't know, but generally only important people will have such protection, and we are not familiar with each other, and we are only responsible for the people we protect. Hearing this result, Yang Mu nodded awkwardly, thinking in his heart whether old Yan would also have such a guard, but he seemed to be quite free at ordinary times, and there seemed to be no one following him closely, but it was different when he was outside. What Yang Mu didn't know was that for Yan Shenfu, this kind of encirclement was actually more comprehensive, and those people were more hidden. Not only did they have to protect the safety of old Yan, but they also had to eliminate some potential threats in secret. Yang Mu took Yanlong to the living area. Yanlong's eyes swept through the surrounding passages from time to time, remembering every entrance clearly. Yanlong, you will live next to me in the future. The conditions here are not bad, but there is not much time to see the sun. Yang Mu took Yanlong to a square room next to him and pointed to it. Yanlong didn't say anything, but first released the little tiger that had been kept in the cage. The little tiger sniffed here, then stretched his waist, found a place to lie down and snore. Yanlong opened all his luggage and took out various things, most of which were related to the little tiger. Looking at Yanlong's things, Yang Mu also smiled helplessly, but suddenly remembered something in his heart. Yanlong, do you know anything about mechanical design? Yang Mu thought at this time that if Yanlong wanted to be his assistant, he must know one or two skills. Otherwise, standing there without knowing anything would attract attention. Besides, he was following him, and his main job was design. In this case, Yanlong must also know something like this. Yanlong put the things away, but stood up and shook his head. No, I can recognize words, but I don't know these things. Hearing this, Yang Mu was stunned for a moment, thinking that this would be a bit troublesome. At this time, Yanlong said again, but I know all kinds of fighting, shooting, and driving. Isn't this okay? Shooting, driving. Yang Mu thought about it for a while, and suddenly his eyes lit up. Yes, Yanlong can help him complete the work of virtual driving mecha. This work is in his own laboratory, and Yanlong's mecha driving skills are already very good. The more Yang Mu thought about it, the more he felt that it was possible. He mentioned it to Yanlong, and Yanlong nodded in agreement. Seeing that this problem was solved, Yang Mu took Yanlong out for a walk to see the situation here. Today, other things were temporarily put aside to let Yanlong get familiar with this place. Then, he would recommend Yanlong to Jojo as a pilot, and he would be able to handle this matter well. So a few days later, another new thing happened in the Mecha Research Institute. It was said that Master Yan's disciple could not bear Jojo's oppression and delayed his research work. He found a teenager from somewhere to replace him as the pilot of the virtual cockpit. And that teenager, it was said, also had a super high level of mecha driving skills. Chapter 384 Accident. Look at these designs. I found them from the database. Some of them require permission, so you can only see them here. As for these things, you only have 2 holographic composition machines. I just got a brand new one. You can use it first and do your design well. In Yang Shenfu's office, Yang Mu was sitting on the sofa beside him. The holographic projector in front of him was projecting holographic compositions of several engines. Yang Shenfu was standing beside him, fiddling with the images with his fingers and explaining them in detail to Yang Mu. Since Yang Mu proposed that he would design a mecha engine, Yang Shenfu gave Yang Mu the most full support for this choice, providing all kinds of equipment and materials, and then asked Yang Mu to come here for a 2-hour class every day. If he was not afraid that Yang Mu could not accept so much knowledge at once, Yang Shenfu would even take out all the things he had kept in the bottom of the box and let Yang Mu take them all in one go. Yang Mu's task today is to analyze and interpret these design drawings of hybrid engines that have existed for a long time, and then summarize their advantages and disadvantages. Teacher, you said that the reason for the failure of this jet and radiation hybrid engine is not only the turbulent agitation, but also the expanded volume. Yes, the original idea of this hybrid engine is to use it in both jet and radiation modes, and the maximum power is the output of both modes at the same time. In order to ensure that the single mode can also make the mecha perform balanced actions, the volume must be increased. Yan Shenfu nodded and said. We also thought about using only the hybrid engine, but in this way, once a failure occurs, the mecha's mobility will be greatly weakened, and it is also very easy to explode, and there is no buffer zone. Listening to old Yan talking about these things, Yang Mu also nodded. The designs in front of him looked very complicated, but the design ideas were very clear. However, because of comprehensive consideration of various situations, the volume of these engines was surprisingly large, and they have always remained on the drawings. Xiao Mu, regarding this hybrid engine, I will summarize a few key points for you. First, the volume should be almost equal to the existing engine. Second, the energy consumption ratio should not be greater than 1.5 times the current one. As for whether the hybrid engine can be used alone, my opinion is to abandon this idea and only design a fully hybrid engine, without considering the separate use of jet and radiation. Yan Xianfu pointed his finger at Yang Mu and said, giving Yang Mu a design idea. Yang Mu also looked up at the teacher and nodded. In fact, he also thought so. Most of the designs of the predecessors considered the extended use of the equipment, but in Yan Lao's opinion, this should be more in line with reality. The all-round design is too difficult to achieve the goal, but only designing a hybrid engine will reduce the difficulty. What needs to be considered is how to solve the turbulence problem and the explosion problem. Yang Mu wrote down these key points, and today's class ended here. Yang Mu packed up his things and prepared to return to the mecha engine research department to design again. At this time, the door of the office suddenly opened. A middle-aged researcher rushed in a hurry, looking very anxious. He glanced at Yan Shenfu in the office and said loudly, "Mr. Yan, there was an accident. There was a problem with the pre-assembly of Angelite in the weapon research department." The researcher only realized that Yang Mu was still in the office when he said this. He was about to say something, but stopped talking. He glanced at Yang Mu, but Yan Shenfu put down the things in his hand and walked directly to the door. "We talked about it on the way, Yang Mu, you come with me." Yan Shenfu walked out of the office calmly, but seemed to think of Yang Mu again, and immediately called him to go out with him. Yang Mu was the designer of this weapon, and maybe he could solve this problem. The researcher was originally going to follow him out, but suddenly heard Yan Shenfu asking Yang Mu to follow him. The expression on his face was also stunned for a moment, and he quickly walked to the side of Yan Shenfu, glanced at Yang Mu who was following behind, and whispered to Yan Shenfu, "Old Yan, I'm afraid this is not appropriate. Although Comrade Yang Mu is your apprentice, this weapon is top secret in the military." Yan Shenfu strode forward, but glanced at the middle-aged researcher, and then said lightly, "So what? I will definitely be my apprentice in the future. What is there to be ashamed of?" The researcher said yes again and again, but at this moment he was extremely shocked. He didn't expect that old Yan would have such a high evaluation of this close disciple, and he also had such high hopes. I just don't know how surprised he will be when he sees this epic-making weapon. Thinking of this, the researcher hurriedly trotted to catch up with Yan Shenfu who was already walking in front. Yang Mu, who was following behind, was also a little confused. What went wrong with the weapon he designed? The three of them quickly passed through many experimental departments and came to the deepest part of this research institute. This is the Mecha and Weapon Assembly and Testing Department, which is responsible for assembling newly designed and manufactured mechas and conducting comprehensive tests on these mechas and weapons. The site here is the most extensive of all departments, and it is not completely hidden in the mountains. Outside this place is a valley, and the entire valley is holographically camouflaged. Various outdoor tests of mechas are carried out there. Now, Yan Shenfu took Yang Mu to the site on the other side. Here, there are many mechanical arms, and the number of personnel is not large. At a glance on the right, you can see that there are assembly lines in the wide field hundreds of meters away. Countless robots are assembling weapons and mechas. Various sparks flash, noises rumble, and it looks like a scene of full enthusiasm. Yang Mu just glanced at it, and quickly turned his head to catch up with Yan Shenfu, who had already walked to the front. The assembly room of Angelite seemed to be further inside, and there were fully automatic machine guards here. Yang Mu was allowed to pass under Yan Shenfu's authorization. When he came inside, it was a noisy scene at the moment. The scene was in a mess. Many people were crowded in the corridor at the moment. Several of them were arguing, and seeing Yan Shenfu's arrival, they all stopped quickly. An older middle-aged man immediately stepped forward and said to Yan Shenfu anxiously, "Old Yan, you are here. Come and take a look at the situation. Why are you in such a hurry? Tell me carefully. Is the situation inside under control? How is the status of the vibration plate?" Yan Shenfu asked calmly. On the way here, Yan Shenfu already knew what was going on here. The vibration plates, which are important parts of the Angelite, were assembled. Due to the error of the machine during the assembly process, a bunch of resonance plates were swept down under the workbench. Because these resonance plates have been specially treated, the fierce collision before assembly will directly lead to a series of resonances. And it was these resonances that not only shattered all the hard windows closest to them, but also caused other equipment inside to malfunction. Sparks flew, a mechanical arm exploded, and the wires fell to the ground. The high-voltage current in the wires quickly charged the resonance plates on the ground. Several resonance plates quickly exploded, knocking down another batch of resonance plates on the assembly line. A researcher rushed in and turned off the switch, and then the people outside urgently used the magnetic levitation device to seal the assembly room and evacuate the air inside, sucking all the resonance plates off the ground. But this only temporarily stopped the bad situation. The resonance plates inside are now full of energy. As long as there is any vibration, it will bring a devastating disaster. Even most of the Mecha Research Institute will be destroyed. It is precisely because of this situation that the person in charge quickly found Yan Shenfu, and at this moment Yan Shenfu took a breath of cold air when he saw this situation, and frowned. Did you send someone else in? No, there may be thousands of scattered resonance plates, which are too dense. We only used micro-robots to explore the situation. All the resonance plates are floating independently and motionless for the time being, the person in charge said with a worried look on his face. Mr. Yan, can you give us away? If there is a major accident, we can't afford it. Yan Shenfu understood this matter very well, but he was just thinking about countermeasures and mentioned one or two solutions from time to time, but they were all denied by everyone. On the other side, Yang Mu stood on tiptoe and watched the screen on the monitor. Seeing the resonance piece that almost filled the entire room, he also showed a look of fear and whispered, "This is a bit troublesome." If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 385 Question. The office outside the assembly room was filled with gloom. The researchers and supervisors present all looked at Yan Shenfu, who was standing in the middle, waiting for him to come up with a plan for this sudden accident. Xiao Zheng, can't the micro-robots remove them piece by piece? Yan Shenfu looked deep in his eyes, and asked a middle-aged person in charge named Zheng Qi after a moment. That can be tried, but the machine will inevitably vibrate when it touches it, and some of the resonance pieces are charged. If it is not done properly, maybe, Zheng Qi said so, with a hesitant look on his face. Yan Shenfu also looked embarrassed. What about using a levitator to grab them individually? Yan Shenfu proposed another idea, but after a moment he realized the problem behind it. The resonance pieces are densely packed in a small space, and no vibration can be generated. At the same time, some of the resonance pieces that are already full of energy may cause unmanageable consequences once they resonate. The people present are all top talents of PAJR, but when faced with such a problem, they all seem a little helpless. Originally, these resonance plates would not be so troublesome if they were not charged. At most, some of the precision instruments inside would be damaged when they were collected. Now that they are charged, we really have no way, Zheng Qi said again, but he was secretly complaining about why the person who designed this weapon originally designed such a perverted weapon. No, this thing is a good thing, but why didn't that guy design a safe assembly method? Otherwise it wouldn't have caused the current situation. While Zheng Qi was complaining, Yan Shenfu was also thinking about various solutions, and suddenly thought of his apprentice Yang Mu. Fortunately, he brought this kid here. There is always a way to deal with the things he designed. Yan Shenfu thought so, and immediately swept to the field. After a careful scan, he saw Yang Mu, who had half of his head exposed, at the outermost edge of the crowd. At this moment, he was looking straight at the image. A group of researchers saw that old Yan was looking around at this time, and they were about to ask old Yan if he had thought of any solution, but they saw old Yan locked in a direction and raised his hand. Xiao Mu, come and have a look. As soon as Yan Shenfu said this, everyone immediately looked in the direction Yan Shenfu was calling. When they saw that there was a young man behind him, they were so surprised that their jaws dropped. They couldn't understand why Master Yan would look for such a young boy at this time. However, there were also sharp-eyed people who recognized who this boy was at a glance. This guy seemed to be Master Yan's new close disciple. Could it be that Master Yan was going to seize such an opportunity to teach? Zheng Qi and others immediately had this absurd idea in their hearts, and they even sighed a little, thinking that it was not appropriate for Master Yan to take care of his own disciples now. When Yang Mu heard Yan Shenfu calling him, he was stunned for a moment. Seeing that everyone around him was looking at him at this time, he was also embarrassed for a moment, and unconsciously touched his nose, and then walked towards Master Yan in the middle under the gaze of everyone. "Teacher, you called me." Yang Mu respectfully saluted to the people around him, and then asked Yan Shenfu. Yan Shenfu nodded. But his eyes were looking at the situation on the screen of the assembly room in front of him, and he asked Yang Mu. "You are familiar with this thing, do you have any idea?" Yan Shenfu asked casually. Zhang Qi was shocked. This guy had seen this thing before? Could it be that it was given by old Yan? This is a state secret. Isn't this too indulgent? Countless thoughts flashed through Zhang Qi's mind, but Yang Mu approached and began to carefully examine the situation in the picture. The resonance plates in the assembly room shown in the picture were all floating at this moment, and they were very dense. Some resonance plates were even in some remote corners, and it was not easy to deal with them safely. There were too many and the danger was great. If it weren't for the vacuum environment created inside and the resonance plates were suspended, it would have been blown up long ago. Yang Mu was watching in front, and Zhang Qi was extremely anxious. He was about to say a few words to Yan Shenfu, but Yan Shenfu looked at Yang Mu's actions and stopped the action of Zhang Qi, who wanted to talk to him. Zhang Qi also stared, but he didn't dare to offend old Yan, so he could only silently step aside, and at this time Yang Mu had turned around. "How is it? Any ideas?" Yan Shenfu looked at Yang Mu's smiling face. Although this guy often looks like this, Yan Shenfu knew that he had an idea. Yang Mu smiled slightly, raised his head and looked at Yan Shenfu, then glanced at the people around him, and finally locked his eyes on Yan Shenfu, and said slowly, "I have a solution, but it's a bit wasteful," Yang Mu said lightly, but the people around him were immediately excited. The young man in front of him actually had a solution. Zhang Qi's face was a little unbelievable, and he asked immediately, "What do you have in mind?" Yang Mu glanced at the man, then looked back at Yan Shenfu again. Yan Shenfu nodded and said, "You say it." With Yan Shenfu's permission, Yang Mu immediately expressed his idea. "Teacher, the solution I can give is very simple, that is to directly damage these resonance plates." "Damage the resonance plates?" Yan Shenfu frowned, not particularly understanding what Yang Mu meant. Yang Mu also explained his own solution immediately. The effect of these resonance pieces is just as its name suggests, that is, to connect energy through resonance. After the band is the same, the energy filled in it will overflow and explode directly, generating a powerful shock wave. When this kind of thing is stuck on the energy shield, the vibration connects the overflowing energy, thus generating more power. Now these things, no matter how to take them out, it is impossible to get them out. Instead of taking great risks to take them out, it is better to destroy them directly, and it can also ensure that the losses are minimized. Otherwise, the explosion will not be such a small loss. No, there are thousands of resonance pieces in here, which is the amount of resonance pieces used in a box of angelite, and the cost is as high as 5 million. Zhang Qi stood up at this time and immediately refuted Yang Mu's point of view. This is just the direct economic loss. Counting those instruments, the loss may be tens of millions, and all these things have to be customized again, which will cost more money. Although such a sum of money is nothing for the research institute with tens of billions of investments every year, for Zhang Qi, such a loss will be directly recorded on his head, and he will definitely be punished for it. In order to minimize the punishment for himself, Zhang Qi chose to handle the matter with conservative means without hesitation. "If you say so, then I have no other choice," Yang Mu said with a wave of his hand. Yan Shenfu glanced at Yang Mu, then looked at the things inside, listened to Zhang Qi's explanation of the various storage equipment and materials beside him, and the persuasion of some researchers, and finally took a deep breath and said, "Then just destroy these resonance plates." "Xiao Mu, what are you going to do?" Everyone at the scene was stunned again, looking at Yan Shenfu and the young man in disbelief, and couldn't imagine that this matter would be handled in this way. This requires some preparations first, and it requires everyone's cooperation. Seeing that old Yan agreed to handle this matter himself, Yang Mu immediately became serious and said in a deep voice. Yan Shenfu immediately ordered the people around him to do it, but Zhang Qi, who was standing next to him, couldn't stand it anymore, and retorted loudly again, "Mr. Yan, I don't agree. Your apprentice is just a young man in his early 20s. Does he really understand this weapon? You can't let him mess around like this. This is a major accident related to the Mecha Research Institute. You still know it's a major accident." Yan Shenfu's eyes suddenly turned cold. He turned his head to look at the other party and said loudly, "What about the various methods I told you? Do you dare to try? You just stand here and say this won't work and that won't work. Is this matter going to waste like this?" Yan Shenfu rebuked loudly, and Zhang Qi's momentum suddenly dropped by half, but in his heart he was still tough about handing such a thing over to a young boy to deal with. Mr. Yan, I need a reason why you want him to handle this matter." The situation in the field suddenly became a little more serious. Some researchers also echoed Zhang Qi's doubts and expressed their concerns about handing such an important matter to Yang Mu. However, Yan Shenfu understood that these people's words were meaningless and would only delay time. After a moment, Yan Shenfu stared at Zhang Qi and said in a deep voice, "Why? Because he is the inventor of this weapon. Are you satisfied with this answer?" Chapter 386 Yang Mu's Method. Yan Shenfu's words stunned everyone. Everyone was stunned, and Zhang Qi's face froze. The young man in front of him was actually the inventor of this weapon? He invented this weapon? Everyone was a little unconvinced, but they immediately realized that Old Yan was a person who never told lies, and Old Yan had always been steady. This matter was very serious, and Old Yan would never hand such a thing over to someone who didn't know anything about it. Did Old Yan really think that this young man could solve this problem? Did this young man really have a solution? The doubts in everyone's hearts were gradually dissipated by Yan Shenfu's words, and at this time Yan Shenfu ordered them to prepare things immediately, and several people immediately followed Yang Mu out. Zhang Qi was beating his drum at this moment, but facing the current situation, he could not do anything, and could only take one step at a time. Yang Mu quickly asked people to find equipment. In fact, the things were also very simple, just a few sets of sonic devices, and many laser welding devices, but at this moment they were all dismantled and debugged next to them. In addition, there were a batch of lighting lamps taken from the mecha assembly line, which were being modified at this moment. Everyone who saw all this was a little confused, because Yang Mu had not explained the specific solution just now, but now looking at these things, everyone became curious. Yan Shenfu looked at Yang Mu fiddling with a laser instrument and asked, "Zio Mu, what can you do with this equipment?" While Yang Mu was doing it, he looked at Yan Shenfu and said, "Of course, let the energy in the resonance plate flow away, drain." Looking at such equipment, although Yan Shenfu was knowledgeable, he still couldn't understand what Yang Mu was going to do for a while. Yang Mu naturally saw the teacher's somewhat puzzled eyes, as well as the questioning looks of those around him, and immediately explained. "Didn't we say before that there is electric current energy stored in those resonance plates? Now we just need to lead the current out and then detonate it, and naturally the whole process will become controllable. If the control is good, we can't even see the explosion sparks, but only see the resonant plates broken into powder." Yang Mu said this, and Zhang Qi, who was standing by and listening carefully, still didn't understand. He immediately walked forward angrily and questioned, "Of course you say so, but how do you lead the current in these resonant plates out?" "Of course, inject air," Yang Mu said casually, but his hands did not stop, adding a scattering instrument to the laser instrument. "Inject air? What's the use of this? Air will only become a medium for vibration, which will only make everything more dangerous. Do you want to help us or harm us?" Although Zhang Qi couldn't tell whether he believed it or not when Yan Lao said that the other party was the inventor of this weapon, he still rebuked loudly at this moment, and the expression on Yang Mu's face, who was listening to the other party's words, had become a little gloomy at this moment. The person in front of him seemed to always want to obstruct all this. He was clearly helping to solve this matter, but now he seemed to want to harm everyone. Yang Mu stood up, and the murderous aura on his body suddenly leaked out. He looked directly at the other person and said word by word, "Listen carefully. I don't want to harm you. Air can indeed become a medium for vibration, but it can also become a medium for electric current. As long as the air is heated or irradiated with ultraviolet rays, it can be ionized, and the electric current can be conducted," Yang Mu said with reason, and the people around him slowly pondered Yang Mu's words and found that this possibility really existed. Yan Shenfu, who was also listening at the side, nodded silently. After the current is extracted, although there will be residual current inside, at this time, as long as the resonance plates are attacked by overlapping different wave frequencies, they will naturally break apart and the explosion will be minimized. Do you understand? Yang Mu's words were loud and clear, and every word fell clearly into the ears of everyone present. A group of elites who were familiar with physics naturally understood this principle and were surprised to find that this was indeed a good way. It was even the best way to solve this kind of accident. After hearing all this, Zheng Qi stopped talking. Yan Xianfu, who was watching his imposing disciple, was extremely satisfied, and his eyes were almost narrowed into a line. After Yang Mu finished speaking, he immediately returned to assembling the instruments. The people around him also started to do it immediately and built everything as quickly as possible. Less than half an hour later, 4 sound wave devices were set up at the 4 corners of the assembly room, and modified ultraviolet lamps were set up in all places with glass. Everything was ready, and the mission officially began. Yang Mu looked at the people present and asked everyone to be silent, and at the same time ordered the staff to open the air valve. Air was slowly injected into the assembly room, and all the ultraviolet lamps were turned on and shone into it. Several wires protruding into the assembly room were connected to a group of electrical lighting lamps. Gradually, a lighting lamp slowly lit up, which was the current inside being let out. All the other lighting lamps around began to light up, and the dazzling light was difficult for some people to see clearly. After waiting for 10 minutes, these lights began to gradually dim, and then went out one by one. Everyone looked at each other, and then silently looked at Yang Mu, who was concentrating on the situation in the assembly room. Everyone understood that the electricity in the resonance plate was really let out. At this moment, the danger level of those vibration plates had decreased a lot. At this time, everyone also looked at Yang Mu with a new look. Such a solution is actually easy to think of, but no one in the field thought of it. This young man was able to quickly notice this detail and propose the new plan. He really has the qualifications to become Master Yan's disciple. Yang Mu did not pay attention to the eyes of the people around him, but just looked at the situation in the assembly room. In fact, this method was also something Yang Mu thought of temporarily. Although Yang Mu drew the blueprint in his mind and understood the principles of these things during the manufacturing process, when he really encountered such a situation, Yang Mu was not sure what method to use to solve it. Originally, he just wanted to see what solutions the teachers had, but they always wanted to keep these things, so there was no progress. But Yang Mu knew that these things were almost impossible to keep. These things were too dangerous. It was too risky to take them back at such a great risk. It was better to just abandon them. Yang Mu's method was simple and crude, but direct and effective. After waiting for the electric light to dim for more than 10 minutes, Yang Mu could only pray that all the current that could be let out of it was let out by himself, and then he made a gesture to several people around him. The 4 people who controlled the sound wave device immediately received the order, and the 4 sound wave devices simultaneously emitted sound waves from the 4 corners into the room. The sound was loud and small, and the sound of vibration suddenly sounded. Everyone held their breath unconsciously and looked into the assembly room, but in the next moment they saw an unforgettable scene. When the sound rang out, the resonant plate still suspended inside began to vibrate, sparkling under the surrounding lights, and some resonant plates were shining, as if they were about to explode in the next moment. But in the next moment, some creaking sounds suddenly came, and the resonant plates that were suspended and vibrating began to become chaotic. Look there, a researcher seemed to have discovered something at this time, and immediately pointed to one side for everyone to look. Everyone looked, but found that a resonant plate there had silently shattered. That place was located where the largest sound waves were emitted. And the next second, the resonant plates in the entire assembly room began to shatter on a large scale, starting from the 4 corners of the room and slowly extending to the center of the room. Thousands of resonant plates shattered at the same time, and the degree of shattering was not just large pieces, but pieces of fragments began to shatter again. In just 1 or 2 minutes, all the suspended resonant plates turned into powder. The entire assembly room was suddenly filled with silvery white powder, like the thick fog in the early morning of late autumn, or the fine snowflakes in the cold winter. Everyone stared at this magical scene with their mouths wide open. But the next moment, everyone burst into fierce cheers. Everyone understood that these resonance pieces had disappeared, and this crisis was resolved. Chapter 387 Design Engine. Master Yan, it was my subordinate's recklessness. If you want to punish me, Zheng Qi will have no complaints. Outside the mecha and weapon assembly department, Zheng Qi looked guilty at the moment, bowed his head and said to Yan Xianfu. After experiencing ups and downs, the resonance plate accident was finally solved smoothly by Yang Mu. It was also because of this that Zheng Qi realized how stupid his previous behavior was. At this moment, he did not ask Master Yan to forgive him. Instead, his sense of shame made Zheng Qi hope that Master Yan would punish him as a punishment. Yan Shanfu's face was full of smiles at the moment. First, the matter was solved satisfactorily. Second, the skills shown by his apprentice made these people admire him. He believed that Yang Mu would have less trouble in the future. At this moment, he did not care much about Zhang Qi's obstruction before. You can report the situation truthfully. The specific punishment will be discussed after the discussion above. Yan Shanfu waved his hand and took the matter over. Zhang Qi also nodded sincerely, and then looked at Yang Mu next to him. Yang Mu was standing next to Yan Shanfu, carefully tidying up his clothes. After the resonance chip crisis was resolved, the excited researchers rushed over to pick him up, celebrating their victory with the most primitive means, and threw him several times in the narrow corridor. Now that the matter was over, Yang Mu only wanted to go back early and continue his engine research. Seeing Zhang Qi looking at him, he immediately bowed. Zhang Qi also quickly returned the greeting, and then said, "Young brother Yang is so young that he can design such a weapon, and he can also help us resolve this crisis so smoothly." Zhang Qi is very grateful. Young brother Yang will definitely have a bright future. Zhang Qi now finally believed what Yan Lao said. This angel light was designed by the young man in front of him, but the more he thought about it, the more shocked Zhang Qi felt. Such a young man was able to design a weapon that several generations could not study. Not to mention luck, all the means he demonstrated today showed that he was extremely careful and had very solid basic skills. It might not be surprising that he could achieve such an achievement. Yang Mu repeatedly expressed his modesty, but Zhang Qi generously praised Yang Mu. Yan Shanfu watched from the side and did not interfere too much. After a while, Yan Shanfu ordered Zhang Qi to deal with the matter properly, and he took Yang Mu back. On the way, Yan Shanfu and Yang Mu strolled in the Mecha Research Institute. Seeing the busy figures around and people stopping to say hello from time to time, Yan Shanfu nodded, and then said to Yang Mu, "Xiao Mu, you did a good job today. Not only did you solve the crisis, but you also saved the teacher some trouble." Yang Mu turned his head and looked at Yan Shanfu. Naturally, he also understood that the trouble Yan Shanfu was talking about was not this matter, but the sudden announcement that he would become his last disciple. That matter happened suddenly, and he was so young. Although no one said anything to him now, many people were still dissatisfied in secret, and their respect for old Yan also decreased. They just thought that old Yan was confused, and secretly said that Yang Mu was lucky. If this continued for a long time, it would definitely not be a good thing for Yang Mu's development here, but now this matter. After Yan Shanfu said this, and then spread through them, the situation would be very different. The disciple of Master Yan created a super weapon at such a young age, and also perfectly resolved the crisis. All of this will completely change everyone's mentality. Yang Mu's strength has been demonstrated. He is no longer a young man who knows nothing, but has already surpassed a large number of people. In this way, everyone's attitude towards Yang Mu will definitely improve greatly, and naturally no one will say that Yang Mu is not worthy of being Master Yan's disciple. "Teacher, I didn't expect that angel light would cause such trouble this time. It seems that we need to pay attention to it," Yang Mu immediately explained, and Yan Shanfu nodded. He also understood the importance of this and said that he would let them work on it in the next few days. "Xiao Mu, now that this matter is over, you should also concentrate on making something, so that you can completely convince everyone," Yan Shanfu said meaningfully. Yang Mu did not understand the meaning behind this sentence, and immediately nodded heavily. This matter came to an end temporarily, but after the matter was exposed, the people in the research department of the mecha engine discussed it again, especially after learning that Yang Mu had actually invented it a long time ago. Their attitudes became more gentle. In the past, some people treated Yang Mu as an intern, but now they treat Yang Mu as a real colleague and are more enthusiastic about doing things. With such a stable environment, Yang Mu also has the conditions to concentrate on his own design. The design of the hybrid engine is difficult. Such a design originally requires the participation of many people, but now the overall design depends on Yang Mu, and some small places are designed by people in the department. Everything is difficult at the beginning, and Yang Mu is now moving forward step by step. Fortunately, the design drawings in his mind gave Yang Mu enough support. Yang Mu drew the engine architecture in his mind, and then discussed the rationality of these components with people around him. This step is actually redundant for Yang Mu who knows the detailed drawings, but Yang Mu knows where he is now. If he really made this thing by himself, it would be too sensational. Everyone worked together to discuss the design. It seemed that many people were involved. Although it was mainly done by Yang Mu, he finally had an excuse to cover it up. In this way, Yang Mu discussed the drawings with the people in the mecha engine research department every day, and from time to time he took the drawings to ask old Yan, or asked some experts in the institute who had researched engines whether the design was reasonable. In less than a month, everyone in the Mecha Institute who had anything to do with the engine was asked by Yang Mu. Now everyone knew that Yang Mu was going to design and manufacture a hybrid engine. Everyone talked about it, but there was less contempt in their words. They just thought that this young man might have been dazzled by his achievements. Although he had designed powerful weapons, it did not mean that he could make a breakthrough in the engine, especially the hybrid engine. Several researchers who were also gradually designing this type of engine came to a conclusion. That is, in a short period of time, under the current situation where various theoretical experiments are not sufficient, the probability of the success of this engine design is very small. But Yang Mu just smiled and didn't answer much. Instead, he kept taking out new design drawings. One by one, the design drawings were constantly filled, and the demonstrations of various fine structures were gradually completed. Only 1 month later, Yang Mu had already started looking for people to build some engine components. A group of researchers who learned of the news rushed to Yang Mu's design table like bandits, and surrounded and watched the drawings carefully scrutinized. In the end, they were surprised to find a shocking fact. Yang Mu really designed a complete engine design. Although most of them were on the design drawings, everyone saw some unique structures in them. Especially the design of the jet in the engine. The jet design of the 6-pointed star, the 6 corners are radiation jets, and the circular area in the middle is the jet. And in this, the radiation jet is slightly concave inward, and the radiation flow will obviously merge with the jet flow at the moment of ejection. This will definitely produce turbulence. Everyone raised questions loudly, but Yang Mu, who was standing aside with a drawing pen, laughed and said a term lightly. Radiation bondage. Everyone was shocked again. Chapter 388 Return to College. The term radiation binding proposed by Yang Mu immediately made the researchers who were watching clear their minds, but they immediately realized that this was a method they had never thought of. Yang Mu's design was actually just a drawing in his mind. Yang Mu did not make any changes to the entire jet nozzle because he also found that this was the best design. The radiation flow ejected by the engine is used to bind the jet airflow. The structure of the hexagonal star hides a spiral structure. The rotating radiation flow will bind the cylindrical airflow tightly, so that turbulence will not form in the jet nozzle. When they are ejected, they don't have to consider it, because that will achieve the purpose of providing a strong driving force for the mecha. The power control of the engine is determined by the size of the radiation flow ejected by the spiral structure on the entire hexagonal star. The greater the binding force, the stronger the engine power, and the smaller the force, the smaller the power. In this way, the entire control problem is solved. Jojo praised Yang Mu's drawings, but that was all, because it was only in the design stage. Although some components were already being cast, it was too early. It was still unknown whether such an engine could be successfully built after control programming and various experiments. But everyone knew that at this point, they had already succeeded a little bit. You know, many predecessors had failed on the design drawings, and many designs were incomplete. Some designs even had to be stopped halfway because of more and more problems. But the young man in front of him designed the concept drawings of this engine in less than 2 months. Everyone immediately refreshed their cognition of the young man in front of them, and only then did they realize that they were far behind him. The news spread quickly. For several days in a row, people came to Yang Mu's workbench to look at the blueprint. Although the blueprint seemed to be an epic-making invention and needed to be protected, everyone knew that it was just a design concept map. The structure inside was not fully perfect, and the design principle was not particularly clear. Moreover, photography and recording equipment were not allowed here. The complicated blueprint could be seen to be feasible, but it was difficult to draw it by himself. There was no need to worry about someone stealing it. Facing the enthusiastic researchers, Yang Mu did not say anything, but occasionally explained a few words. Originally, Yang Mu wanted to show this blueprint to Mr. Yan first, but Mr. Yan was not in the research institute these days and returned to Kunlun College, so Yang Mu had to give up. It was another day of work. Yang Mu checked the construction of some engine components and was about to continue to improve his blueprints, but he suddenly received a message from Mr. Yan. The second graduation ceremony of Kunlun College was being prepared and would be held in a week. Mr. Yan asked Yang Mu to return to Kunlun College as soon as possible to attend the ceremony. When Yang Mu saw this message, he was stunned for a moment. He didn't expect that time would pass so quietly here. In a blink of an eye, it was already June, and the second term of the academy was about to leave school and start a military career. Thinking that his friends were probably still in the academy, Yang Mu did not hesitate and immediately replied to the message, asking for leave to return to Kunlun Academy tomorrow. Now that his design has come to an end, the next step will be a long manufacturing experiment process. Now I can take a breath and go to the graduation ceremony. Thinking of this, Yang Mu applied for a 2-week vacation from the institute, and then sent a message to Yunlong. After learning where Yang Mu was going, Yunlong said that he would apply to see if he could go with him. After all, Kunlun Academy is the top military academy in PAJR, and it is heavily guarded. It is estimated that it will be difficult for Yunlong to go. Yang Mu didn't dwell on these things. He was just thinking about being able to see his classmates earlier. He was a little excited. He suddenly thought about whether he should bring something with him. However, the institute was also under closed management. Yang Mu went around and only bought a few bags of specialty snacks. There was really no other way. He could only see if he could bring something on the way to the institute tomorrow. The next day, Yang Mu packed a little and embarked on a journey to Kunlun College. Yang Mu contacted Long Lai yesterday, and the other party said that he would pick him up. When he stepped on the ground again and stood in the hangar looking at the big sun outside, a hover car stopped in front of him. The hover car looked like a taxi, but it did look a little weird here. But when he saw that the familiar instructor Long Lai got off the car, Yang Mu immediately smiled and saluted solemnly. "Hello, instructor." Long Lai also looked up and saw Yang Mu. His face was still cold, but he immediately saluted and said, "Yang Mu, long time no see." Yang Mu nodded, but he was a little surprised. Long Lai said that he would send someone to pick him up, but he didn't expect that he would come by himself. Although this instructor who had taught him for a year had a rough process, Yang Mu still admired Long Lai very much. After not seeing him for a year, he didn't see any changes. Both of them were cold-tempered. After a few words, Yang Mu got in the car and the hover car set off towards the direction of Kunlun College. On the way, Yang Mu wanted to buy some gifts for Jimo and the others, but Long Lai didn't stop, so he had to give up. Watching the hover car passing a busy section of the road and then coming to a narrow section of the road, the vehicle changed at this time. There was a buzzing sound under the car. Yang Mu looked out and saw that the vehicle was suspended in the air for more than 10 meters and was now flying towards the mountainside. Unexpectedly, this hovercraft was modified. Yang Mu was secretly shocked, but he didn't say anything about it. He just talked with Long Lai about some things about Kunlo Academy. From Long Lai, Yang Mu learned that Kunlo Academy had undergone many changes this year. Due to the confrontation between several major powers in the Sonne Star region, PAJR returned a group of OSA and PAA students. Now there are more than 80 students in the third term, and it is near the end of the school year, and their new assessment is coming. Yang Mu asked about their assessment, but Long Lai shook his head and didn't reveal it. It seems that this is a top secret matter. I just don't know what kind of catastrophe these students will experience, and how much they will learn about blood and tears in this assessment. The hovercraft slowly moved forward along the mountains. Yang Mu didn't know how long it had been. He just saw a familiar volcanic place in the car window. He remembered that it was the place where he passed the assessment when he entered school. At this moment, it was still a desolate scenery. The car whizzed past, and Yang Mu could only take a quick look, but he was quite emotional in his heart. Time passed slowly, but now, he has completely changed from what he was before. I don't know how long it took. Just when Yang Mu was a little confused in this small hovercraft, Long Lai said that he had arrived. Yang Mu perked up and looked forward, and saw the academy in front of him. The hovercraft drove into the small square, and Yang Mu got off the vehicle. The surroundings were quiet, but 2 students passed by in the distance. They were also a little surprised to see Long Lai and Yang Mu, but they just stopped to salute and left. The June sun was already a little scorching, but Yang Mu was a little confused about this feeling. In the past year since he left, he had traveled to many places and seen many scenes. Now he was here again, and his heart was full of mixed feelings. Yang Mu, just as Yang Mu was looking around with admiration, a surprise voice came from behind him. Yang Mu looked over and saw 2 big braids swinging, and a smart figure was coming towards this side. Yang Mu looked closely and found that it was Jimo. He immediately grinned and raised his hand to wave hello. Jimo quickly ran to Yang Mu's front, and there were two figures following behind him. Yuan Miao and Ji Jin were also walking towards him. Both of them had smiles on their faces, but their temperaments had changed and became very restrained. Of course, Jimo was the exception. At this moment, Jimo had already arrived in front of Yang Mu. Her two big eyes kept looking at Yang Mu, and her delicate face was full of curiosity. Then she spoke. Yang Mu, you are back safe and sound. Hearing this, Yang Mu smiled bitterly, not knowing how to answer, and Ji Jin, who was standing behind him, also spoke at this time. Yang Mu, you are finally back. My little sister dragged us here to wait for you early this morning. Yuan Miao, who was standing next to him, also smiled and echoed, that's right, she got up early this morning and dragged me to dress her up and dress her up. How could that be? Jimo blushed and shrugged after her little thoughts were exposed. Yang Mu looked at these friends and understood that this was the most sincere welcome, so he laughed immediately. Chapter 389 The Lost and Found Necklace. The graduation ceremony will be held in a few days. I thought you would not come back. Ji Jin and his group, who had just picked up Yang Mu, were walking on the avenue of the academy. Ji Jin said to Yang Mu as he walked. Of course I will come back. After all, I am already in Yanhurong Star. And this is a very important event. I can't be absent. Yang Mu also nodded as he walked. Since he was already in Yanhurong Star, he would definitely not miss this event. Ji Jin nodded, but suddenly remembered something, and then said to Jimo beside him, little sister, didn't you pick up a courier for Yang Mu before? Jimo, who had been following behind him shyly, suddenly raised her head at this time, and then her eyes lit up. She exclaimed as if she had realized something, and then immediately jumped in front of Yang Mu with a smile, took out something from her pocket, spread her hands, and handed it to Yang Mu. Yang Mu looked down and saw the shining familiar shape, which turned out to be the space necklace he had lost in the Sonai Star region. Yang Mu looked surprised, but he didn't stop. He immediately reached out and took the thing in his hand. He looked at it carefully and confirmed that it was his necklace. Then he breathed a sigh of relief. But the next moment, Yang Mu suddenly realized something and suddenly raised his head to look at Jimo. Jimo looked at Yang Mu's somewhat mischievous expression and smiled with her hands covering her mouth. Jimo, where did you get this? At this moment, Yang Mu's heart was in turmoil. Regardless of whether this thing was real or not, why was it in Jimo's hands at this moment? Shouldn't this thing be destroyed together with the asteroid? Yang Mu was full of doubts, but Jimo smiled and explained, this is the express I picked up for you a few days ago. The delivery location is Zinsong Star region, and it is marked to be delivered to you. What about the signature? Who is it? Yang Mu hurriedly asked, but Jimo shook his head. It's called Kubo. I don't know who it is. Hearing the word Kubo, Yang Mu's expression suddenly relaxed. It turned out that this thing was taken away by those people. Perhaps those people knew that this was their thing, and this time they found a way to get it back. And with their means, they couldn't have been unaware that they were studying in this college, but if so, then their ability would be very great. At this moment, the joy in Yang Mu's heart has completely turned into excitement. He even wanted to see if there was his own annihilation in this space necklace, but seeing so many people around, Yang Mu still resisted this idea. At this time, Jimo looked at Yang Mu and the thing Yang Mu held tightly in his hand, and said, Yang Mu, what is this? Although the stone is beautiful, the style of this necklace is really ugly, Jimo said with a look of disdain, but her eyes were fixed on the necklace in Yang Mu's hand. When Jimo helped to get this thing, she couldn't wait to open it and take a look. Seeing that it was a necklace, she played with it for a while, wondering why someone would send Yang Mu such an ugly necklace. But after a few days, Jimo suddenly remembered that Yang Mu seemed to wear such a necklace when he was in school, and immediately realized that this thing might be very important to Yang Mu. At that time, when she saw that this thing that was inseparable from Yang Mu was sent to the college separately, Jimo once thought that something had happened to Yang Mu, and she was worried for several days in her heart, but Ji Jin kept comforting Jimo later. Jimo also found Yan Lao to ask about Yang Mu's situation. When she learned that Yang Mu had returned to Yanhurong Star and was still alive and well, she was relieved, but she couldn't contact Yang Mu. Facing Jimo's question, Yang Mu was stunned for a moment, and didn't know how to answer. He just hung the necklace around his neck, put it in his clothes, and then said solemnly, This is one of the most precious things in my life." Listening to what Yang Mu said, Jimo tilted his head and looked at Yang Mu, but didn't say anything else. Yang Mu saw that everyone was staring at him, so he laughed and asked about something else. From beginning to end, Yang Mu didn't notice Ji-jin's flashing eyes and the slight smile on his lips. Ji-jin already knew the secret about Yang Mu, and now this thing is a small gift from Ji-jin to Yang Mu. The necklace incident was passed over, and the group walked towards the academy and talked about the past again. Jimo said that there is still a legend about Yang Mu in the academy, because almost all the students of the third period suffered losses at the hands of Yang Mu in the entrance examination. On the one hand, they knew that Yang Mu was strong, and on the other hand, they were eager to challenge Yang Mu. However, Yang Mu left the academy in a hurry, which was a pity. If they knew that Yang Mu was in the academy in the past 2 days, someone would definitely come to challenge Yang Mu. Yang Mu just smiled when he heard this, and did not answer. Yang Mu could not accept such a thing. If they insisted on challenging him, he would just go around. On the way, Yang Mu also met many students from the second period. Many people knew Yang Mu, especially the Caliph who had participated in the assessment together. At this time, he also smiled and gave Yang Mu a hug, and asked about Yang Mu's recent situation. Some of the third-term students around also noticed this situation. From time to time, some people asked who Yang Mu was. After learning that this was Yang Mu who had disappeared for a year, the girls looked at Yang Mu's tall and handsome figure and their eyes suddenly sparkled. The boys began to pick up the communicator and contacted their classmates in the college to spread the news that Yang Mu was back. Yang Mu and Ji-jin went to the cafeteria to welcome Yang Mu. There were also some friends that Yang Mu was familiar with, including Tao Meng, who almost broke his arm when he enrolled. Now he is a strong man, but the arrogance in his eyes when he looked at Yang Mu was gone. Of course, during the conversation, he still revealed the idea of competing with Yang Mu again, but was rejected by Yang Mu. Lunch ended in a peaceful atmosphere. After the end, Yang Mu received a message from the Dean Yang Kin, who was waiting for him in the office and could go there any time in the afternoon. Yang Mu had nothing to do here, so he didn't stop and went straight there. Although he didn't know what the dean meant by calling him over, Yang Mu thought it might be related to his work at the Mecha Research Institute. Shuttled around the campus skillfully, Yang Mu carefully looked at everything around him, and felt some changes that occurred. Unknowingly, he arrived at the bottom of the office building. He walked in. When he arrived at the office, he saw Yang Kin sitting alone inside, holding something in his hand and looking at it. Yang Mu made a report at the door, and Yang Kin immediately looked up. Seeing that it was Yang Mu, he immediately put down the things in his hands and invited Yang Mu to come in and sit down. Yang Mu walked in with a smile, and Yang Kin also walked up to help Yang Mu pour a cup of tea, and then sat next to Yang Mu, and then looked at Yang Mu with a smile. "Yang Mu, I heard that you have now come to the Mecha Research Institute and work under Old Man Yan," Yang Kin asked, and Yang Mu naturally nodded. "Yes, I went there 2 months ago. Master Yan accepted me as his apprentice, and now I am doing some design work there," Yang Mu said timidly, but he was still confused about why Dinu Yang wanted to find him. Logically, he should know that he went to the Mecha Research Institute, because it was Master Yan who called to intercept him halfway, so the dean's question now seemed to be to start a topic. Yang Kin nodded, and then talked about Yang Mu's upcoming graduation. Kunluo College did not have any final graduation assignments, but it depended on the study of various courses. Yang Mu still did not have enough credits for the courses he took last year, and Yang Kin also brought up this matter. Yang Mu thought that he might not be able to graduate, but Yang Kin changed the subject. "Of course you can graduate. Your current achievements are enough to proudly say that you graduated from Kunlun College. However, our regulations are set here. I think there are still some conditions to get this diploma," Yang Kin said proudly, but his eyes narrowed at Yang Mu. Yang Mu suddenly felt something was wrong. "Conditions?" Yang Mu asked. Yang Kin smiled and nodded, put down the teacup in his hand, and then spoke. "Yes, we hope that you can speak as a representative at the graduation ceremony. Of course, don't worry, we will never tell you about your most important identity," Yang Kin said this, and Yang Mu breathed a sigh of relief. This kind of thing is actually an honor for him, not a condition. Yang Mu immediately opened his mouth to agree, but Yang Kin looked into Yang Mu's eyes again, and his expression became a little successful. "Of course, this is just one of the conditions. We have another condition," Yang Mu was stunned when he heard this, but Yan Qin said immediately, "We hope that in the next few years, you can be a lecturer in our design and manufacturing courses." Chapter 390 Yan Qin's Invitation. After Yan Qin's words came out, Yang Mu couldn't help but open his mouth, his face full of astonishment. Yang Mu didn't expect that Yan Qin would give him such a condition. He actually wanted him to be a lecturer here. This is Kunlo College. Almost all the teachers are top figures in the industry. But the dean actually extended an olive branch to students who just graduated from the college. This is simply a fantasy. Yang Mu was stunned for a moment. Yang Qin also felt that this news was too shocking for Yang Mu, and he immediately explained again. "This is what I have discussed with Mr. Yan. You have a very good talent in design and manufacturing, and we both think that communication between young people can collide with sparks of thinking, and there may be different changes. Originally, we planned to let you assist Longlai as an instructor, but thinking that you are now working in the Mecha Research Institute, so this matter was abandoned," Yang Qin explained like a machine gun, and seeing that Yang Mu seemed to gradually calm down, he immediately spoke again. "How about it, Yang boy, are you willing to come? This course gives you a lot of free time, and it will definitely not take up much of your time, Dean. This is really... I don't think I'm qualified." After Yang Mu calmed down, he also realized this problem and immediately refused. Yang Qin shook his head and pretended to encourage Yang Mu. "Hey, you can't say that. What you have done is obvious to everyone. That's why we made such a decision." Yang Mu still found it hard to believe this, but Yang Qin added again, "This is the condition we give you, otherwise you won't be able to graduate or speak on stage." Yang Qin pushed Yang Mu again, and Yang Mu's expression was quite helpless, but he nodded. "Since you, the dean, and the teacher both want me to do this, then I won't refuse." Yang Mu said this, his expression gradually became serious, and he stood up and said loudly. Yang Qin nodded in satisfaction when he heard Yang Mu say this. Yang Mu's ability to accept it so easily was very much to Yang Qin's liking. Otherwise, he would have to spend some effort to convince him. In fact, Yang Qin and Yan Shenfu discussed this matter several times before deciding. The teachers in the academy also supported this decision. On the one hand, they saw Yang Mu's outstanding ability. Although he was still young, youth was also an advantage. At least the students here would not have any grudges against him. On the other hand, Yang Qin and Old Yan had other ideas. That was to tie Yang Mu to Yan Huang Star. This year, Yang Mu participated in various battles on the front line. Yang Qin and Yan Shenfu were paying close attention to him. However, it was precisely because they saw Yang Mu experiencing countless dangerous situations that the two decided to do everything they could to prevent Yang Mu from being hurt in the next period of time. Yang Mu is so precious. Not to mention that he won the hero medal at such a young age, the things he designed alone have already reflected great value, and he himself has such a high military quality. All this makes Yang Mu look like a piece of precious jade, and now only a small tip is exposed. No one wants to see such a rising star fall because of an accident, so Yan Qin and Yan Shenfu came up with such a solution. Now that he agreed, that is enough, at least the goal of the two has been achieved. Yang Qin happily communicated with Yang Mu for a while, but most of the things he asked were about the battlefield. Yang Qin was once a marshal of the country, and many of his insights were more profound than Yang Mu. Although Yang Mu also had many years of experience, he was not good enough in front of Yan Qin at this moment. The conversation with Yan Qin made Yang Mu learn a lot. And from Yan Qin, Yang Mu also learned the details of the current Sonai Star region. After the war, the troops of several countries there were severely damaged, but PAJR's troops were almost intact, and because the battle was almost completely won by PAJR, the PAJR military, which had shown its combat power, naturally had a stronger voice there. These days, under multi-party negotiations, PAJR has expanded its jurisdiction there by nearly 1/5, and there have been some changes in the trade between countries. After this battle, PAJR once again demonstrated its extraordinary military strength in hundreds of years, deterred many forces that were ready to move, and continued to look down on the entire Milky Way. When talking about these, Yang Qin couldn't hide a smile on his face. The old Marshal of the Republic was very happy that PAJR could continue to show its strong military strength, and Yang Mu also showed a sincere excitement from his heart. History has made a big deviation here, and the original tragic victory has become today's great victory. In this way, The subtle changes in the relationship between countries have become clearer. PAJR can continue to have absolute voice, and it can gather more strength in the changes more than 10 years later. After talking about these things for a while, Yang Qin was old after all, and felt a little tired. Yang Mu also said goodbye and left here in time. When he walked out of the office, the sun was still high in the sky. Yang Mu put his hand on his forehead and looked at the mountains in the distance. Seeing the surrounding mountains, the surroundings were immersed in the tranquility of the afternoon. Yang Mu took a deep breath. The quiet atmosphere made people's heads empty. A conversation with the Yang Qin made Yang Mu know that he had embarked on a completely different path today. Perhaps when this little butterfly was desperately flapping its wings, the breeze brought by the wings rolled up the phosphorus powder emitted by itself, which might have caused some big shots to sneeze and accidentally changed something. Yang Mu took another look at the scenery in the distance, turned around and walked towards the direction of the dormitory. While walking on the road, Yang Mu found a place with few people and carefully took out the necklace. The fingerprint unlock on the necklace was still there. After Yang Mu recognized it, a small virtual screen unfolded. Yang Mu looked inside, but wiped his eyes in disbelief. In the virtual image, the space inside has expanded a little, and there are many large boxes piled up in it. Next to the large box, there is a familiar figure. It is his old friend Annihilation, who is still lying quietly inside, still painted black, with a sharp shape, showing an unusually ferocious and majestic appearance. Yang Mu's body was suddenly covered with goosebumps, and his heart beat faster at this moment. Those people actually took his things away, and it seemed that they had repaired them. Not only that, they also added some things to him. Those people, those inexplicable technologies, and this lost and recovered necklace made Yang Mu's impression of those people greatly changed at this moment. It seems that they are fulfilling the promises and are willing to become allies with him. But Yang Mu reached out and touched the position of his heart. There was a small robot in that place, always staring at his heart, monitoring his every move in disguise. Those people, with such powerful technology, should cooperate with the official even if they want to seek allies, but why did they find him, or do they have many allies like him? Yang Mu shook his head and drove these thoughts out of his mind. He had experienced too many shocks today and felt dizzy at the moment. After hanging the necklace around his neck again, Yang Mu looked up at the azure sky unconsciously. In the vast universe behind this azure sky, he wondered if Yuan Chu had rebuilt his body, and where the unknown Zerg army was at the moment. Chapter 391 I don't make beer cans. Yang Mu didn't expect that in the past 2 days after arriving at the academy, he actually felt like he was back home. Not only did his classmates warmly welcome him, but some teachers also came to talk to him. Some of the students from the third term intercepted him halfway and challenged him without any explanation. Of course, Yang Mu rejected them one by one. In the past few days, Yang Mu also went to class with Ji Jin and the others. However, the students from the second term basically had no classes now. He originally hoped to see Master Yan here, but he learned that Master Yan had only been here for 2 days and had to go out temporarily because of something. This also made it impossible for Yang Mu to learn something from Master Yan here. But today, Yang Mu didn't think about these things, because in the academy, Yang Mu met another familiar person, Shenning. At first, he didn't realize that Shenning was also studying in this academy. It was not until yesterday when he was eating in the cafeteria that Shenning suddenly appeared, which surprised Yang Mu and made the scene a little awkward. The two of them knew what happened in the Sonne Star region half a year ago, but it was very awkward to meet each other at this moment, especially Shenning's already gorgeous appearance, staring straight at Yang Mu, which made people feel very uncomfortable. However, when Shenning met Yang Mu in the cafeteria, he said something, asking Yang Mu to meet him alone tomorrow. Yang Mu was reluctant at first, but thinking that they were about to go to the midterm trial in the third period, he nodded immediately. So at this moment, Yang Mu and Shenning sat on a lawn in the academy. The two sat opposite each other, and there was a beer in the middle, which was brought by Shenning. The academy did not ban alcohol, but if you drink too much and make trouble, you will be punished. Yang Mu himself also tried his best to restrain himself from such things, but looking at Shenning who was drinking in front of him, he also opened a can and held it in his hand. What? Are you surprised to see me? Shenning took a big sip of beer, his face was a little red, and he looked at Yang Mu with very clear eyes. Yang Mu looked at Shenning, then at the wine in his hand. He thought it would be better to get to the point in such an awkward situation. He immediately asked, "Just say what you want to say. There's no need to make it like this." Hearing Yang Mu's words, Shen-Ning was stunned for a moment, then seemed very angry and said, "You didn't talk to me like this before, so you think I'm too long-winded, right? No, then listen carefully," Shen-Ning said heavily, just like her father Shenk, who is very domineering in his words and deeds. Yang Mu didn't say anything else, but lowered his head, ready to listen to what the other party said. "I didn't expect that such a brutal battle would happen there after I left there," Shen-Ning said, staring at Yang Mu. Yang Mu also raised his head and glanced at the other party. "This is unpredictable. Besides, I am a soldier, so I have no choice but to do it." "That's not what I want to say," Shen-Ning shook his head, which made Yang Mu stunned. "What I want to say is, why didn't you try hard to show your strength? Why didn't you get great military exploits?" In that case, Shen-Ning's eyes suddenly lit up and paused for a moment, and continued with a flash of eyes. "In that case, you can work under my father." Yang Mu was a little stunned. He thought Shen-Ning was going to criticize him for why he was so desperate to participate in such a dangerous battle, but he didn't expect that the other party would blame him for not fighting bloody battles and earning a lot of fame. Yang Mu grinned and shook his head. Knowing that Shen-Ning didn't know the behind-the-scenes story, he said to Shen-Ning lightly, "Even if there is such an opportunity, I will never do it." "Why? Why? Do you know how many people want to work under my father?" "My father is a person that Marshal Yan respects," Shen-Ning immediately retorted, thinking that what Yang Mu did was illogical. Yang Mu leaned forward a little bit, his eyes staring at the other party. Shen-Ning was frightened by Yang Mu's sudden action and leaned back unconsciously. "I want to ask Miss Shen a question. In your opinion, what kind of person am I?" Yang Mu asked the familiar question again. Shen-Ning felt a little uncomfortable being stared at by Yang Mu. Her face became even more rosy, perhaps because of the alcohol or something else. "Of course, I am a serious, calm, and capable person," Shen-Ning hesitated for a moment and said in a low voice. The cute expression she showed was totally inconsistent with her gorgeous face. Yang Mu let out a deep breath, then sat up again, picked up the beer bottle beside him, raised it, and asked Shen-Ning again, "What do you think of this beer?" "Beer?" Shen-Ning was stunned for a moment, glanced at Yang Mu, then looked at the beer can, confirmed that Yang Mu was serious, swallowed his saliva, and then tentatively said, "Of course it is filled with delicious beer, of course this beer will intoxicate people," Shen-Ning said with certainty, but Yang Mu grinned, then turned the beer can in his hand, and the golden beer slowly fell from the can onto the grass. Shen-Ning looked at Yang Mu's actions in surprise. Yang Mu slowly said, "Yes, this is you, or even everyone's understanding of this kind of thing, but some people think it tastes good, and some people think it tastes bad, just like some people think I am a great person after seeing my previous performance, or some people think I am just a lucky person, but, when you look at me with such eyes, have you ever thought about how I see myself?" Yang Mu changed the subject and talked about himself. As he spoke, Yang Mu took out a knife from his pocket and cut the small can open. A sizzling sound was heard. After a moment, Yang Mu had a knife made of the can in his hand. It was very rough. Yang Mu took the knife in his hand and showed it to Shen-Ning. "You saw the beer can and thought that it would contain beer. I am a beer can. I know what is in me, but I long to do something else, not just to be a beer can with intoxicating alcohol." Yang Mu's words were heavy, but they were clearly heard by Shen-Ning. "Indeed, I am a soldier, but I also hope." Yang Mu was very excited, but when he said this, he suddenly realized what he was saying and quickly closed his mouth. He longed to take a different path from his previous life. The military was obviously the most suitable career for him, but that was in normal times. For 20 years later, it was not enough. Although such words should be confided to someone, it was definitely not Shen-Ning in front of him. "What do you hope for?" Seeing Yang Mu suddenly stop talking, Shen-Ning looked over and asked again, but Yang Mu grinned, laughed lightly, and then spoke. "Shen-Ning, I don't think we are on the same path," Yang Mu suddenly said. "If it weren't for this academy, we wouldn't have any anxiety. Of course, it would be the same after we get out of here." Yang Mu seemed very determined at this moment, looking directly at Shen-Ning, with a firm expression on his face, and Shen-Ning, who heard this, seemed to be struck by lightning at this moment, and the expression on his face froze for a moment, and then gradually changed. Yang Mu was a little nervous when he said this, because the girl in front of him was the daughter of a general, who should bring him great help in the future, But Yang Mu understood that the girl in front of him inexplicably had some strange feelings for him, but Yang Mu didn't want this to happen. Since seeing Chen Kai working hard, Yang Mu has already firmly believed that he wants to protect Chen Kai, and Yang Mu will not open his heart to others. The expression on Shen Ning's face gradually changed. Just when Yang Mu thought she was going to cry, Shen Ning suddenly grabbed the can of beer next to her and gulped it down. Then, as if she was choked, she coughed twice and suddenly laughed, but tears welled up in her eyes. Yang Mu knew how Shen Ning felt at this moment, but he decided to cut the Gordian knot. He exhaled heavily, took a few tissues from the side, and handed them to her. Shen Ning did not reach out to take them, so Yang Mu put the tissues next to her and stood up. Shen Ning, no matter what you think I am talking nonsense or what, I really hope that when you graduate from this college, you can make a difference in the years to come, even if, just make it all worth it. After saying this, Yang Mu paused, then stood up and left. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 392, Bold Words. After the conversation with Shen Ning that day, Shen Ning never came to Yang Mu again. Yang Mu also chose not to contact the other party after a fierce ideological struggle. Time passed slowly, and before he knew it, it was time for the graduation ceremony. The graduation ceremony of Kunlun College was held in the laboratory in the mountain belly, and it was completely private. Even the third-term students were not allowed to attend. It was precisely because of this that although this graduation ceremony looked very grand, there were not many people attending. Yang Mu and Ji Jin were standing in the team of students in neat military uniforms at this moment, but they saw that there were fewer students around. Because of the matter in the Sana Star region, PAJR cleared all the second and third term students of OSA and PAA in Kunlun College. At this moment, there were only about 60 people in the team of 80 people, which seemed to be a little small. But even so, everyone stood in a strict manner, with a solemn expression on everyone's face, quietly waiting for the arrival of the dean. Time passed little by little, and when the clock pointed to 8, Yang Mu and others finally saw a group of people walking in the passage in the distance. Yang Qin was in the front, and next to him was Yan Xianfu, and then the teachers. All the teachers in the academy were here. This scene was like the scene when they first went to Hades' planet. Now it still makes people excited. Stand at attention, Long Lai took the lead and shouted loudly. Everyone made a unified sound of footsteps, and everyone's eyes were directly looking at the academy leaders and teachers who were slowly walking to the center stage. Yang Qin was still the first to walk onto the stage, with a signature kind smile on his face, his eyes slightly narrowed, and he looked at every student in the field happily. There was silence in the field, and Yang Qin also looked at each student carefully, and nodded after a moment. Yes, very good, this is the style of our soldiers, I am very satisfied. Yang Qin seemed very happy today. Looking at the crowd of people in the audience, he couldn't stop smiling, and then he spoke again. Dear students, you came here 2 years ago and accepted the most rigorous and arduous training and learning. You worked hard with your sweat and blood, which is obvious to all. God rewards hard work. Yesterday's hard work has brought you today's achievements. Dear outstanding students, today, I, Yang Qin, can proudly announce here that the second batch of students of Kunlun College, a total of 62 people, graduated with excellent results and were awarded the rank of Junior Lieutenant of the Pan-Asian United Republic, Yang Qin said loudly, and then looked at this group of high-spirited boys and girls with some emotion. They are at the best age and have received such an excellent education. Everyone can show their own unique style here. It is also because of this that they will have enough time to experience more things. Perhaps many years later, these people will bloom with a stronger brilliance. And this is exactly the purpose of Kunlun College. Young men and young ladies, you have worked hard for the past 2 years, but I still want to say something. At this time, Yang Qin said slowly, his tone became unusually gentle, just like an elder admonishing his younger generation. 2 years ago, I said that I didn't want you to die so early, and today, I want to reiterate this sentence. I don't want you to die for an evil war. War is cruel, but if it is a just war, I only want to say one thing to you, please fight for it. Yang Qin said lightly, his eyes swept across everyone's face again, and then added, but in my heart, peace is the most precious, and war is the most last resort. After saying this, Yankin's eyes suddenly changed, his eyes looked up, and then he said loudly, "The inauguration ceremony begins, stand at attention." "Salute," Long Lai said again, and the students in the audience stood up in awe and saluted in unison. Although Yankin is already old, this old marshal of the Republic still shines with his own brilliance. Even though it is just a few short sentences, it reminds everyone of what Yankin said when he first came here. After 2 years of experience, everyone may still be a little ignorant, or perhaps they don't have deep scheming, but those sentences spoken by Yankin are like seeds, sprouting in everyone's heart. Yang Mu was naturally disturbed by this atmosphere. He thought of the goals he set for himself when he entered this academy, and he couldn't help but clench his hands. The next step is the awarding ceremony. The academy treats everyone equally. Although personal grades vary, as long as they graduate from here, they will all be awarded the rank of Junior Lieutenant of the Planetary Force. Although some people major in the interstellar fleet, it is still the case because this is just a symbol. When everyone leaves here, they will naturally be absorbed by various forces and shine in the field they are best at. Yang Mu was also awarded the rank of Junior Lieutenant. Of course, this was just a formality. If he really wanted to wear a military rank, Yang Mu's shoulder straps should now be the rank of Junior Star School, but if it was hung here, it would be too ostentatious. So it was the same as everyone else. After all, the officer uniforms were the same, and they could be changed later. The shoulder straps were awarded by Yankin himself. The old man walked briskly to each person, carefully helped each student to wear the shoulder straps and collar badges, and then said, "Good boy, good girl." A solemn atmosphere rose in the entire mountain laboratory at this moment. Everyone quietly accepted Yankin's awarding of honors, and then saluted excitedly. It was Yang Mu's turn. Yankin glanced at Yang Mu, his eyes did not change at all, and still helped Yang Mu to fasten the shoulder straps and collar badges like he did to others, and then patted his shoulder heavily. "Good boy." Yang Mu raised his head and chest, saluted solemnly, and looked straight ahead. Yankin nodded, and then continued. The awarding process was very slow, but it was going on step by step. After a long time, the awarding was finally over, and then it was Yan Xianfu's speech. Everyone listened carefully to the teachings of this knowledgeable and powerful old man. One by one, the teachers spoke, and then it was the turn of the student's representative to speak. Jimo, as an external student, spoke on stage. Jijin rarely talked about many things. With that confident smile, the whole person looked extremely attractive, so Yang Mu had to nod his head. With Jijin's temperament and ability, it was too inferior to describe him as a dragon among men. After Jijin finished speaking, it was Yang Mu's turn to speak on stage. In fact, before the ceremony began, everyone knew that Yang Mu would speak on stage as a representative, although everyone felt that this seemed a bit inappropriate, because Yang Mu had not been in the college for almost a year, and he had only hurried back here a few days ago. Everything seemed to show that Yang Mu might not even have completed the college's professional courses, but everyone understood that Yang Mu's starting point now was even higher than some generals. He is the apprentice of Master Yan, and is highly appreciated by the dean and many other teachers. Not only that, he also has excellent mecha combat capabilities and military qualities that are not inferior to anyone. He can also design and manufacture. A new mecha that was introduced to the academy a few days ago is his masterpiece. Such a person is almost impeccable and seems to be the person everyone wants to be. In addition, some people with deep backgrounds have learned from certain channels that Yang Mu is already a researcher at the Mecha Research Institute and works directly under Master Yan. In addition, he left the academy to join the army this year. It is said that he also participated in the Battle of the Century and seems to have met some people in the military system. Some people with extraordinary backgrounds, after being warned by their elders at home, are ready to start making friends with Yang Mu. Even all the students present can see that Yang Mu will definitely become a man of the hour who will dominate the entire PAJR in the next few decades. Yang Mu went on stage solemnly, looking at a group of teachers and students in the audience, all of whom were looking at him with their eyes, and lowered his head and took a deep breath. Yang Mu slowly raised his head, opened his eyes sharply, looked at everyone in the field, and then spoke. "I, Yang Mu, am here to make a bet with you all today. 20 years later, I, Yang Mu, will make a contribution to the country. 20 years later, I, Yang Mu, will let everyone live a good life. 20 years later, I, Yang Mu, We'll let PAJR still stand in the center of this galaxy, and it will be more prosperous than today." Sharp eyes appeared from under the brimmed hat, the words were passionate, and the emotions were arrogant. Everyone was stunned and immediately in an uproar. Chapter 393 Complete Design. "Brother Yang, you've been out for half a month this time. What have you been doing?" In the Mecha Research Institute, Mecha Engine Research Department, Yang Mu was sitting at his design table carefully drawing blueprints, and at this time Jojo came over with 2 cups of tea, put 1 cup on the side of the design table, and then held the other cup in both hands and asked. Yang Mu was stunned for a moment when he saw that it was Jojo, but he took the teacup that Jojo had placed on the table first and carefully placed it on the ground beside him. This is a habit that Yang Mu has developed recently. Only things related to the design drawings can be placed on the design table, and absolutely nothing can pollute these drawings. Originally, paper has become a low-end thing, but in the Mecha Research Institute, many people still use it this way, because the feeling of drawing on paper is very smooth, and it is more handy than using an electronic screen. On the other hand, generally complex design drawings are composed of many drawings stacked together to form a complete design work. The electronic screen has only one screen, so it is troublesome to switch drawings and find problems. More importantly, these drawings must be filed. The electronic screen may have unreliable failures, but the archive storage point of the Mecha Research Institute will never catch fire. Seeing Yang Mu's actions, Jojo's expression did not change at all. He still leaned on the side with a smile and looked at the pictures on Yang Mu's desk. "Oh, this drawing looks much more detailed than before. Are we going to start trial production?" Jojo said this again, but his expression was noisy. Yang Mu glanced at him and sighed. After returning here from the academy a few days ago, he devoted himself to this design. As the director of the Engine Research Department, Jojo should be very concerned about this, but he has been busy with tasks recently and has no time to check on Yang Mu's progress. Now he can come to check, which is reasonable, but this smiling attitude makes Yang Mu know that things are not simple. "Minister, just speak up. If you just want to see the blueprints, I'll explain it to you right away. I'm also looking for you to build the engine. But if it's something else, tell me first. I'll see if I have enough quota." Hearing Yang Mu's helpless words, Jojo was like a child whose little thoughts were exposed. He laughed dryly twice, looked around unconsciously, and then spoke. "Since Brother Yang said so, I'll speak up." Jojo laughed and finally revealed his true colors. "Well, do you still have quotas for Yaoti, A516 refined iron, GE special copper and special titanium alloy? Give me some." Yang Mu was about to pick up the teacup on the ground and take a sip of tea. Hearing this, he almost knocked over the cup. He immediately raised his head and looked at Jojo, who was smiling in front of him, with a look of surprise. "My minister, you are too terrible. It's only the beginning of July, and the quota of the research department and your quota have been used up. The things Jojo mentioned are extremely scarce resources. It is impossible for the entire Mecha Research Institute to supply them openly. However, because the tasks of the Engine Research Department have been heavier recently, the quota seems to have been adjusted up a bit. However, Jojo had used up all of them at the beginning of the month and even set his sights on his own." After hearing what Yang Mu said, Jojo immediately rubbed his hands, laughed, and explained with an embarrassed look, "You know that we have a lot of research topics and experiments recently, so we use a lot of materials. What's more, to test the engine, we always have to try all kinds of rare materials, so I come to you to borrow some." So, Jojo stared at Yang Mu and asked in a low voice, "Brother Yang, I heard that your quota has increased recently. Because Mr. Yan is out, he also gave you some of his quota this month? How about giving me some? I don't want more. 30%, oh no, 25% will be enough." Hearing Jojo's words, Yang Mu shook his head helplessly, looked at Jojo next to him, smiled and said, "Minister, it doesn't matter if I give you all the quotas for the first 2 months, but it's not possible this time." "How can this? It's not possible. You can't use it all by yourself." Hearing Yang Mu's words of refusal, Jojo suddenly became a little embarrassed, and said with some disbelief. Yang Mu could only pat the blueprint in front of him, then turned his head and said to Jojo, "But now this engine is going to be manufactured, and I also need a lot of special materials for many key parts. No, you can't make it in a month. There will always be some surplus. You can give me these parts." Jojo immediately defended, but just after he finished speaking, Jojo was stunned for a moment, and then seemed to notice something, and immediately grinned at Yang Mu. Okay, you are going to negotiate with me, Brother Yang, you are so young and don't learn well, Jojo said, and then reached out and patted Yang Mu's shoulder, and Yang Mu took a sip of water carefully. Okay, what are the conditions? Tell me first. Jojo saw what Yang Mu was thinking, and immediately spoke. Seeing that his goal had been achieved, Yang Mu squinted his eyes and grinned at Jojo, then smiled and said, actually, it's my design. I'm not particularly clear about the selection of materials for actual manufacturing, so I want the minister to help me figure it out. Jojo nodded, looked at the side with deep eyes, then turned his head and looked at Yang Mu again. That's okay, but what are my conditions? 15%, 20%, okay, Yang Mu bargained with Jojo and nodded. Jojo immediately showed a satisfied smile, even humming a song, and then suddenly thought of something and looked at Yang Mu with his mouth open. You mean your drawings have been completely designed? This is the final drawing. Jojo pointed at the drawings on the table and shouted loudly as if he had discovered a shocking secret. The other researchers around were also shocked by Jojo's words, but after hearing the content of the words, they looked at each other, stood up immediately, and surrounded him. Jojo had already snatched the blueprint on the platform from Yang Mu's hand. He saw that it was only a blueprint of a component. Then he scanned the site and saw some cylinders around. Other researchers nearby quickly handed it over. Jojo took out the blueprints one by one and spread them on the design table according to the numbers, completely ignoring Yang Mu's constant reminder to be careful. A total of 7 blueprints were taken out, and then they were carefully and neatly stacked on the design table. Jojo carefully smoothed the blueprints and saw the lines on the blueprints clearly with the light from the design table below. A clear design blueprint of the complete mecha engine appeared in front of him. Although the placement of each jet was exactly the same as on the current mecha, the jets above and the engine in the center had undergone earth-shaking changes. Jojo and the researchers nearby took a deep breath and picked up the magnifying glass next to them to carefully look at the blueprints. Several people were still pointing at the blueprints and talking about it, nodding or widening their eyes from time to time. Yang Mu looked at Jojo's increasingly excited expression and finally breathed a sigh of relief. If this blueprint could pass the inspection of the head of the mecha engine research department, then manufacturing could begin. Chapter 394 Olive Branch. The news that Yang Mu's hybrid engine design drawings were completed spread quickly in the Mecha Research Institute, and this news also reached Yan Shenfu's ears at the first time. He was surprised to learn that Yang Mu had designed this hybrid engine in just 3 months, but he wanted to see what it was like in person. In the Mecha Research Institute, many researchers from various departments, as long as they were related to the engine, were looking at the drawings on the electronic screen and arguing with each other. Jojo's mecha engine research department was even more crowded, and researchers came one after another to listen to Yang Mu's design ideas. Jojo, who was trying his best to select the manufacturing materials for this hybrid engine, decisively passed the buck, but found that Yang Mu was not in the research department, and even the living area had disappeared. At this moment, Yang Mu was in the casting department of the Mecha Research Institute. Although many important parts of the engine are still in the material selection stage, some ordinary large parts, such as the engine shell and the outer baffle of the jet nozzle, can be made of ordinary materials, and only need to be coated with a special metal film at that time. Yang Mu was wearing a golden fireproof suit at the moment, standing next to the forging workbench, watching the burly foundry researcher next to him skillfully use the rolling mill in front of him. No, you only have 3 layers of special steel, which may not be able to withstand the engine's operating strength at that time, and why haven't you added carbon fiber yet? The toughness will not be enough at that time. Yang Mu stared at the other party, and saw that the other party was using high-strength special steel to make it into shape, but did not add other materials, and immediately spoke. My brother. Can you stop asking? The sturdy man was sweating at the moment, and he couldn't stop sighing when he heard Yang Mu talking about this thing. This disciple of Master Yan started running to him with things the day before yesterday, and took the expedited number given by Master Yan to ask him to help forge the shell. Of course, there is a task to do, and the sturdy man did not stop for a moment and started to forge it. But I didn't expect that the shell of this engine would have such high requirements. Because it was a trial production, there was no mold at all, and it could only be made by hand, and the materials selected were all this difficult to handle. Not only that, this young man insisted on entering the operation room. Although it did not violate the safety regulations, it would not be a big deal if he just stood by and watched, but he wanted to say something about everything, which was really killing him. This is the first round of pressing, and there will be more layers later. Also, if the carbon fiber is added now, it will burn in trash later. Not only will it not enhance the toughness of the material, but it will also mix in more impurities, which will only have a counterproductive effect, the strong man said earnestly. He didn't know how many times he had explained to the other party. The other party obviously didn't have the ability to forge, but he always had to say something. He couldn't get angry because the other party gave him extra contribution points. Hearing the strong man's helpless explanation, Yang Mu also grinned dryly. A few days ago, the drawings were officially delivered for trial production. The old scholars in the research institute rushed up like sharks smelling blood, grabbing himself and the drawings and asking questions and arguments. Yang Mu was scolded for his efforts. Most of them told Yang Mu not to be so impatient and to polish the drawings carefully. Yang Mu thought that they would be fine after the excitement, but he didn't expect that someone would come every day. Some researchers even ran to his apartment directly after completing their tasks and asked to discuss with him in detail on the spot. Unable to bear the annoyance, Yang Mu had to think of a way to escape. He came here under the pretext of being a supervisor under the order given by Mr. Yan to forge his own things. However, Yang Mu himself admitted that he didn't understand the forging procedure, but seeing that this was forging his own things, he wanted to say a few words, and unconsciously asked a few more questions. After being looked at by the strong man with a look of "please go out," Yang Mu was embarrassed to stay here, and asked him to help make it well, and then walked out of the workshop. The air outside the workshop was cooler, less hot. Yang Mu took a few deep breaths, then shook his neck, and prepared to walk around the raw material workshop. No one there came to discuss professional knowledge with him, so he was a little more peaceful. But before he took a few steps, Yang Mu was suddenly stopped by a strange male voice. Yang Mu turned around and saw a middle-aged man with a Mediterranean face, who was walking towards him quickly. Hello, are you Yang Mu, the disciple of Master Yan?" The short middle-aged man walked up to Yang Mu with a big breath and asked. Yang Mu nodded, looked at the strange face with some doubts, and asked respectfully, I wonder who you are." The middle-aged man immediately stood up, took out his ID from his pocket, and then said, "Let me introduce myself. I am Li Kuan-Iao, the section chief of the weapons research room of the Battleship Research Institute. This is my ID, Battleship Research Institute." Yang Mu was full of doubts when he heard this word, but he looked down at the ID handed over by the other party, confirmed that the photo on it was the same as his real face, and then handed the ID back to the other party. "Hello, Chief Li, are you here to see me? Or do you want to talk to Master Yan about something?" Yang Mu's first reaction was that the other party might have seen that he was Master Yan's disciple, and now that Master Yan was not in the institute, he might want to do something through him. But Li Kuan-Iao smiled and shook his head, and then only looked at Yang Mu. No, I just came to see you, Yang Mu, young friend, looking for me." Yang Mu immediately raised his eyebrows and asked in surprise, but the other party nodded and explained. "Yes, this is what our department director Liu Qing asked, and it has also been agreed by the leaders of our institute." Yang Mu smiled and replied, "Why are you looking for me? I design and research mechas and battleships. I don't think I should be related to them, right?" Yang Mu was stunned for a moment when he mentioned battleships, but he still said with a smile. Although he had the battleship blueprint in his mind, now was definitely not the time. If he wanted to eat a big fat man in one bite, he would be killed by his own arrogance. Li Kuan-Iao still had a smile on his face. "Young friend Yang, you can't say that. Mechas and warships complement each other. It's just the size of the combat units that differ." Although Liu Kuan-Iao seemed to be good at dealing with people, he was straightforward with Yang Mu at this moment. "To tell you the truth, the leaders of our institute admire the angel light you designed. This weapon is very powerful and is an amazing invention," Liu Kuan-Iao said while giving a thumbs up. Yang Mu seemed to realize something else when he heard the other party say this. Angel light was directly listed as a military secret after passing the theoretical test. When the model design and calculation were carried out, the Mecha Research Institute asked the supercomputer of the Battleship Research Institute for help. The people of the Battleship Research Institute also knew a little about this news, and some leaders had even seen the simulation data. It was precisely because they found that this thing could still be used as a weapon to break through the defense on the battleship that everyone was immediately curious about the inventor, but at that time they didn't know who the inventor was. But not long ago, the Battleship Research Institute heard from the people of the Mecha Research Institute that the last disciple of Yan Laoxin was the designer of the Angel Light, and everyone's brains became active again. Liu Qing, the director of the Weapon Research Institute, immediately decided to contact Yang Mu to see if he could also come to do some research on battleship weapons, which could be regarded as making the best use of people. Therefore, in order not to anger the people of the Mecha Research Institute, Li Kuan-Yao came to poach people quietly. After hearing all this, Yang Mu felt incredible. He had never thought that he had been targeted by the people of the Battleship Research Institute. The original improved version of Angel Light could indeed be used on battleships, but he did not expect that they were so sharp that they had already started poaching people. Yang Mu felt a little emotional, but still shook his head. Li Kuan-Yao was stunned when he saw Yang Mu's attitude. "I'm really sorry. Although I have made some good inventions, I am a disciple of Master Yan. If you want to talk about this, you should talk to my teacher. Master Yan is not on the institute recently. We thought of contacting you first." Li Kuan-Yao said this, obviously wanting Yang Mu to reconsider. Yang Mu could only smile and shake his head again, letting them talk to the teacher. Seeing that Yang Mu's attitude was quite firm, Li Kuan-Yao did not get too entangled. He could only leave an internal contact number with Yang Mu, repeatedly asked Yang Mu to consider it, and then left. Looking at the back of the other party leaving, Yang Mu showed an intriguing expression. It is estimated that there are 1 million words, which is a milestone breakthrough. This is the first time I have written a book with 1 million words. Although it is still not on the mainstream, I always feel that I can't take an incredible step. Thank you for your continued support. Although it is not written very well, I sincerely thank you for your support. Finally, I wish you all a happy long vacation cap haha. Chapter 395 Preparing for the Test. Another weekend is coming. Fang Ying got up early, but her face was puffed up. In the past, the only person who could make Fang Ying very upset was the wooden Jojo. But now, there is another guy who makes Fang Ying angry. That is the apprentice of Master Yan, Yang Mu, who just came to work in her department. The reason why Fang Ying was puffed up was that the young man named Yang Mu actually designed a brand new engine in just 3 months. Logically speaking, this is a great thing, but that guy wanted to drag Jojo, the dead idiot, to test the engine together. Just because of his drawings, Jojo is now very excited all day long, but the 2 dark circles under his eyes are very scary. Yesterday was originally Saturday, and Fang Ying was specially prepared to drag Jojo to watch a movie together, which he promised her before. But he refused, saying that the hybrid engine called Whale Dirt has now reached an important assembly step and he must keep an eye on this matter. Fang Ying knew that once this thing was assembled, Jojo would be eager to start testing, and it would be another sleepless day. But now Jojo's condition looked very bad. What if he didn't rest and hurt his body? Jojo didn't go back to his room to rest last night, and he was still working all night in the laboratory. So Fang Ying decided to burn her boats and make a last-ditch effort today. Even if she knocked him out today, she would drag him out of the laboratory and let him have a good rest. And that damn Yang Mu, if Jojo had any problems, she would definitely teach him a lesson, and then go to Old Yan to complain and let Old Yan discipline him. Old Yan was most happy to have people give suggestions, and he would definitely teach that guy a lesson. That's right, that's it. Having made up her mind, Fang Ying immediately walked out of the room, ready to implement her plan immediately. But as soon as she opened the door, Fang Ying saw that the researchers in the living area in front of her who were supposed to be sleeping and had gotten up early one by one, and they didn't put on their clothes properly, and some even had messy hair, and ran towards the passage on the side, which made Fang Ying's heart skip a beat. Fang Ying pulled over a female researcher she knew and asked, "Pepe, what's wrong? Is there an accident?" The female researcher who was pulled over saw that it was Fang Ying from the Mecha Engine Research Department, and she exclaimed in surprise at the other party's question, and then spoke loudly. "There is no accident, Xiaoying, don't you know? The engine designed by Yang Mu has been assembled, and all the leaders of the institute have gone there. They are about to start testing. I just received the news from the department and was about to go take a look." After saying this, the researcher named Pepe looked at Fang Ying, and then asked with some doubts, "Xiaoying, it's your department's business, don't you know?" Fang Ying was stunned for a moment when she heard the news. She quickly touched her personal terminal and found it was not there. She searched for it in the room and finally remembered that she had left it in the research department yesterday and didn't take it back. Seeing Fang Ying's actions, Pepe couldn't wait any longer. She told Fang Ying to come quickly and immediately ran over from the side. Fang Ying stood there in a daze, watching the people around her running towards the engine research department one after another. Suddenly she came to her senses, shouted as well, and then ran over there in a hurry. In the hall of the Mecha engine research department, the originally messy place has been cleaned up, and all kinds of messy equipment have been cleared to both sides. There are crowds of people, all of whom are gathered in a place in the middle of the hall. Is this thing reliable? The material of the whole body is quite attentive, but can the hexagonal star design of the jet nozzle really solve the problem of turbulent disturbance? This design is quite innovative, and it is also a good innovation. People in our department have also calculated it, and it is completely possible in theory. I am not optimistic about it. Old Yan, I am not saying that your disciple is very powerful, but the things designed in 3 months are definitely not polished finely. Why are you so pessimistic? You will know after trying it. Find someone to start it. In the center of the hall, a group of gray-haired old men gathered together, exchanged glances with each other, and then talked in a low voice. Old Yan didn't know when he came back, and he was also in the queue of these people. Next to them, a model mecha had been pulled over from the assembly department. Several staff members were climbing up and down, installing an engine on it, and constantly debugging it. Yang Mu and Jojo stood by, both watching the final work, and both of them now had dark circles under their eyes, but Jojo's dark circles were more serious, but he didn't look listless at all, but was very excited, and was now designing the test program with great interest. Yang Mu looked up and saw his design being assembled, and a strange feeling rose in his heart. A weapon designed and manufactured by oneself is always exciting to be presented in front of oneself. Yang Mu was thinking about this, but he heard someone calling his name next to him. Yang Mu turned his head and saw that it was old Yan who was looking at him, as well as several other old scholars in the institute, and he immediately walked over quickly. Xiao Mu, what's the situation with this thing now? Yan Shenfu asked with narrowed eyes. Yang Mu answered truthfully, Teacher, the engine assembly was completed this morning, and now it is installed on the mecha for testing. I believe that the test will begin soon. Have you finished the test of the theoretical model? Have you finished the simulation of various situations? At this time, an old man next to him asked. Yang Mu looked over and knew that it was Kong Chang, the design boss of the research institute. The other party had designed many practical mechas and assisted many star fields to complete independent mecha designs. Yang Mu naturally said respectfully, report to Mr. Kong, the theoretical model has been in progress since the drawing stage. The engine research department has done many simulations in the manufacturing and assembly stage. The data is not bad. Not bad? Does it work? You have to use the most specific data to make the most accurate conclusion. Young man, you can't just talk. Kong Cheng was still in that hot temper. It was not that he looked down on Yang Mu, but he felt that such an excellent student designed such an amazing thing in such a short time. If he didn't hone his skills and polish his arrogance, he would probably suffer a great loss in the future. What Mr. Kong said is right. I will continue to do the data model test now. Yang Mu did not refute and said respectfully immediately, then turned around and was about to leave, but was stopped by Mr. Yan. Mr. Kong, I'm not saying anything to you. My apprentice didn't say anything, but you acted like you had eaten dynamite. What's wrong? Are you not convinced? Yan Shenfu stood up to support Yang Mu at this time, and Yang Mu could only smile at the side. Kong Chang, however, had a stern face, glanced at Yang Mu, then looked at Yan Shenfu, turned his head away and said nothing. Mr. Yan looked at his old friend and could only shake his head helplessly, then turned his head to look at Yang Mu. Yang Mu, this is also what Mr. Kong wants to spur you on. Just do your job well. I know, teacher. Yang Mu nodded immediately. Mr. Yan also nodded with satisfaction, then looked at the things next to him that were about to be assembled, and immediately pointed and said, it seems that this is almost done. Yan Shenfu's words came out, and the people next to him looked over, and they all saw that the staff were getting off the mecha and clearing various things out of this area. At this time, Jojo, who was standing by, was also informed of this matter. He immediately put down the panel in his hand excitedly, and then shouted at the staff to start preparing for work. The entire research department was suddenly alarmed, and all the personnel stepped back. At the same time, the test room where the mecha was located raised multiple layers of special glass to separate everyone from the engine. Various screens were also deployed around the periphery, monitoring the status of the engine in all directions without blind spots. Jojo rushed to the control console on the side and began to arrange commands. The time to test Yang Mu's results has come. At this time, Yang Mu also unconsciously held his breath, clenched his hands into fists, and waited for the next experiment. With him, there were circles of people surrounding him. Everyone wanted to witness together the birth of the first mecha hybrid engine, a cross-era engine that combines radiation and jet. Chapter 396, Thrilling. The alarms in the test room rang one after another, and everyone retreated to the safe area. Fang Ying, who rushed over, was unable to squeeze in much because of her status as a member of the department. The surrounding researchers wanted to take advantage of this weekend to take a good look at this experiment with great significance. Self-check of protective devices, self-check of firefighting devices, self-check of experimental vehicles, self-check of experimental equipment, and self-check of data acquisition equipment. Start typing in the data program, determine the ignition sequence, and go online with the self-calibration system. In the control room not far from the test room, a group of researchers were busy preparing for the next important experiment. Various data flashed on various display screens, and everyone was staring at a project. Fortunately, the people in the mecha engine research department have been through many battles, and they are calm in the face of such an experiment. All programs are completed, a researcher said loudly to Jojo next to him after counting the data on his panel. Jojo was staring at the various situations at this moment. Hearing this order, he immediately walked to the glass curtain wall and made a standby gesture to Yan Lao and others who were observing on the other side. Yang Mu also saw this gesture, and realized that he would really test his equipment next, so he took a deep breath. At this time, Yan Xianfu also received the information and nodded immediately, asking Jojo to start. Jojo immediately turned around, looked at the data flashing on each screen again, and then solemnly said, "Begin the ignition test." The order was issued, and many researchers sitting on both sides of the control panel quickly moved their fingers, and the instructions were quickly transmitted to the test room, and the data was transmitted to the mecha engine through the lines connected inside. Mecha engine ignition test, project number JZ001, experiment number 0001, start now. As an operator shouted loudly, a finger quickly pressed the start button, and everyone's eyes were fixed on the situation in the test room in front of them. The next moment, the whole place was silent, and even the breathing sound became extremely weak. Everyone looked up at the engine mounted on the mecha, waiting for it to spit out hot flames the next moment. Time passed in a flash. The next moment, everyone heard a slight humming sound. It was the sound of the engine of the mecha starting to turn. The sound of metal friction was very slight. But the next moment, a dense sound wave suddenly unfolded. Everyone felt an invisible wave. It was the sound of the light wave radiation starting. On the omnidirectional display screen next to it, it was shown that several engine jets of the mecha were now showing orange-yellow light. The light was not dazzling, but with a strange halo. The radiation engine started successfully. Looking at the various scrolling data constantly displayed on the surrounding screens, Jojo secretly exclaimed in his heart, but his eyes were still closely staring at the situation above, because the ignition step had not been fully completed. After the radiation engine appeared, the jet of the six-pointed star center jet was ignited. After ignition, as long as the external light wave radiation can perfectly bind this powerful airflow, the whole work is completed. And it also means that the hybrid engine design is successful. Yang Mu and others who were standing in the hall observing were also secretly looking forward to it. Yang Mu was grinning at this moment. If it wasn't for this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, Yang Mu even wanted to close his eyes and not watch what would happen next. Ignition second stage start. Jojo confirmed that many data had met the requirements, so he issued the next command, checked the researchers who had normal data again, and decisively pressed the button. The humming engine emitted a sound of wind the next moment, which was the rhythm of the jet nozzle starting to start. The flame of the jet nozzle was gradually changing, and even some light waves could be seen shaking. But the next moment, something strange happened. The sound of wind just lasted for less than 2 seconds, and a whistling sound suddenly came, and then in the next second everyone saw that the mecha model began to shake violently. What's going on? Anxious voices suddenly rang out in the control room and the observation room, and a group of researchers were quickly troubleshooting. But the model mecha in the test room was shaking more and more violently, and many red data began to appear on the various data display screens, indicating that the situation inside was very bad. Jojo made a prompt decision to terminate the test and then see what the reason was. The manufacture of this engine took a lot of effort, and it would take a month to remanufacture it. Jojo didn't want to waste it. Zhao Zhu, shut down the engine, cut off the power, and ensure that the entire engine is intact, Jojo said loudly, but a flat-headed researcher turned his head, shook his head and said loudly, Minister, no, the air output in the jet compression chamber is not enough. If it is forced to shut down, the light wave radiation will be directly introduced into the jet chamber, which will cause turbulence, but now the whole engine looks like it can't hold up, Jojo retorted loudly, but suddenly realized something and stared at the other party. Wait, you said the jet chamber is not getting enough air. Jojo immediately turned his head to look up various data, and then rushed to the glass curtain wall to see the condition of the engine. Jojo felt that he had grasped some key, but he couldn't remember it all at once. But at this moment, the glass door of the test room suddenly opened, and a figure suddenly rushed in. Jojo turned his head and found that it was Yang Mu. Yang Mu's face was full of anxiety at the moment. After rushing in, he just glanced at the test room, and then rushed to the operating table. Jojo also saw Yang Mu and rushed over immediately. Yang Mu, did you find anything? Jojo asked anxiously, but Yang Mu directly pulled aside a researcher and clicked a few times on the screen of the control table. Two holographic control buttons rose up, and Yang Mu quickly got started. These were two telescopic control arms located in the test room. Jojo looked at them in confusion, but Yang Mu spoke. The appearance of this mecha is not suitable for this engine, and the air intake is too small. Yang Mu's words woke Jojo up from his dream. At this time, he immediately looked over and found that the air intake in front of the mecha was indeed smaller than what the engine needed, and the air intake rate was lower. Whale organ no. One is different from ordinary engines. Ordinary engines are all jet engines, so the air chambers are not as narrow as whale organs. It doesn't matter if the air intake rate is a little slower. The internal compression stroke will reduce this requirement. However, whale organs are different. The narrow air chambers need to achieve greater thrust in a faster time, so the air intake port must be larger, so that the strength of the jet can be guaranteed. Only in this way can the radiation and jet complement each other, so as to achieve the effect of restraint and no turbulence. Is it not possible to reduce the radiation flow? Jojo asked quickly, but Yang Mu had already stepped forward with a mechanical arm and shook his head decisively. When the mecha appeared in this situation, Yang Mu and Yan Lao and others were all surprised. Yang Mu also checked the situation immediately. Yang Mu saw the unsuitable air intake port on the mecha at first glance. This problem was not discovered during assembly. Perhaps it was just a test and the requirements were not high. But Yang Mu knew what kind of requirements this had on the mecha itself. Yang Mu also thought about asking Jojo to reduce the radiation flow to eliminate the vibration, but this method can only be used when the airflow reaches a threshold, but now it is obvious that the engine has not reached it. Yang Mu made a prompt decision and decided to manually eliminate the hidden danger, otherwise the engine would explode in front of him. Two mechanical arms quickly extended the blades in front of the mecha. Yan Lao and others also looked over at this time. They were ready to directly order the termination of the experiment. Seeing this situation, Yan Lao temporarily stopped the order. Yang Mu slowly manipulated the mecha arm forward. The laser cutting gun on it quickly arrived. Yang Mu decisively turned the power to the maximum, and then cut the various air intakes in front of the mecha to increase the intake area. Sparks flew in the test room. Everyone watched Yang Mu's actions, and slowly, everyone found that the whistling and shaking of the engine slowly disappeared. At the same time, the red alarm gradually disappeared, and the control room became busy again. When the laser gun expanded the last air intake, the engine jet suddenly changed. The original layer of radiation halo surrounding the jet suddenly dispersed at this time, and a beam of straight sparks rushed out from it. The halo rotated around, and the power value of the entire mecha suddenly soared, and then stabilized. Everyone held their breath and looked at the stable data carefully. As time passed, the expressions on everyone's faces gradually changed, and then they exchanged surprised looks. Success, success. Kong Cheng stared at the engine that had calmed down, and the power value that was not inferior to that of ordinary mechas. He turned his head and looked at Yan Shenfu next to him. Yan Shenfu retracted his gaze, his mouth gradually curled up, and then looked at the control room. His hands trembled a little, and he nodded slowly. There is no doubt that it succeeded. From now on, our country has one more high-end technical equipment. The words were spoken, and the surroundings were silent, and then the next moment, a thunderous cheer broke out. Chapter 397 Yan Shenfu's Plan. Haha, Xiao Mu, today's results are very impressive. The teacher is very happy for you. Yan Shenfu sat on the chair in the office and laughed heartily. Yang Mu sat on the sofa next to him and just nodded calmly. This morning, Jingzhang No. 1 completed the most basic ignition test. The roaring engine that escaped danger indicated that a brand new engine branch had begun to develop. This project has not been studied in depth in the past due to cost and application difficulty. After the level of mecha has risen in recent years, ordinary mecha has been seeking this breakthrough. The higher-ups gave us 3 years to conduct research. We haven't even started the project in Kashgar yet, but you completed it in 4 months. This is a remarkable achievement. This is your amazing work. Yan Shenfu said this with a serious expression. Yang Mu, do you understand what I mean? Yang Mu sat upright and looked at Yan Shenfu, thinking about the connotation of these words in his mind. Yan Shenfu took a sip from the teacup, then slowly said, Whale organ number 1 was successful. Although it was only a short-term ignition success and no other research was conducted, this also shows that we have gained an advantage in this regard. The hybrid engine will speed up the research process. Teacher, will you allocate resources to this aspect in the future? Yang Mu understood the meaning and asked immediately. Yan Shenfu nodded. Yes, there should be an approval in this regard soon. The engine research department will also set up a special independent team to conduct research in this area, but I don't plan to let you be the team leader. Teacher, this, Yang Mu was a little surprised when he heard this, but Yan Shenfu interrupted Yang Mu's question. I know this is your hard work, but now the general design structure has come out, and the people in the institute are not just there to eat and work. With your preparation, it will naturally develop rapidly. As for you, I hope you can do something else. I should have told you at the beginning that I hope you can learn in various departments, and it would be best if you can go through all departments. Teacher, isn't this too fast? In fact, I have been designing this drawing in the research department for the past few months, and I haven't started to study other things carefully, Yang Mu explained again. Although the engine was successful this time, some problems were exposed. The engine has undergone some design modifications by Yang Mu, and has not undergone complete acceptance and field testing. Many problems may gradually be exposed, which all need to be studied and improved again. The thrust of the whale engine at the first ignition exceeded the thrust of ordinary jet engines at the same level, and this is just a rough model. After more systematic optimization, the advantages of the hybrid engine will be further revealed. When Yan Shenfu heard this, he shook his head more firmly and explained to Yang Mu again, Yang Mu, I know you want to take it step by step, but I think you misunderstood my idea. I don't want to see you learn every technology in every department and master it, because that's unnecessary. Yan Shenfu said so, and the puzzled look on Yang Mu's face became more obvious. Let me put it this way, no one is perfect, and the same is true for me, teacher. Although I have designed many mechas, I can tell you for sure that if these departments didn't exist, I wouldn't even know how to make a special screw. Yan Shenfu closed his eyes and shook his head, with a helpless smile on his face. Humans are a group creature. Cooperation has promoted the rapid development of the entire group. It is absolutely impossible to achieve great things alone, Yan Shenfu added again, but he pointed at Yang Mu. I asked you to learn in every department. It seems like a cursory visit, but I want to tell you that I don't need a closed apprentice who can make precision screws. What I need is someone who can inherit my knowledge. Yan Shenfu sat up straight, looked at Yang Mu with his eyes, and said heavily, to put it bluntly, I need an apprentice with wonderful ideas in his mind, an apprentice who can have a global view. Yan Shenfu's words were recalled in the office, but Yang Mu was stunned for a moment, and gradually realized the meaning of Yan Shenfu's words. As the dean of the Mecha Research Institute, Mr. Yan's skills are all in design. Mr. Yan came up with a design, and his subordinates turned the design into reality, and finally created the PAJR Mecha level that was the best in the universe. At this moment, Yang Mu suddenly realized that he seemed to have thought about something wrong. He attached too much importance to the design and realization of something. He not only paid attention to its success, but also wanted to do it himself and send this thing from his hands to the factory production line in the most perfect way. But I forgot that so many people have more professional levels, just like the strong man in the foundry workshop. I don't have that level at all. Why say anything more? Just give him the drawings and he will do it well. At this moment, Yang Mu suddenly realized that his mentality had not changed. Perhaps it was because of his military experience. He started as a soldier and climbed up step by step. Although he became the captain of a huge fleet, the practical spirit engraved in his bones made him want to take on all the work in such design research. Yang Mu was like a revelation, and he understood something in an instant. Looking at old Yan again, Yang Mu took a few deep breaths and finally nodded heavily. Teacher, you are right. I have indeed thought too much. I will obey your arrangement. Seeing Yang Mu's attitude, Yan Shenfu also showed a gratified smile on his face. He valued this apprentice very much. Perhaps more so, when he was unable to do it, he hoped that someone could inherit his skills. Decades of wind and rain had given Yan Shenfu too many feelings. Now, he only had one thought, that is, to let the glory of PAHR Mecha continue. The appearance of Yang Mu was undoubtedly a beacon in the darkness, giving Yan Shenfu a direction, and the talent shown by Yang Mu made Yan Shenfu determine his plan. However, since he was a close disciple, Yan Shenfu not only had to teach him a lot of knowledge in daily life, but also taught Yang Mu those things that transcended the essence of design. Design thinking can still be sorted out, but design inspiration, which is almost ethereal and even has a bit of luck, can never be found in a regular way. To touch the key points of this condition, only by being fully familiar with the entire process of mecha design and manufacturing and understanding the basic concepts, can one prescribe the right medicine, make gradual progress, and grasp the fleeting inspiration in the mind at a certain practical step. Of course, this is not enough. Yan Shenfu has a different polishing method for this unpolished jade disciple. Okay, you just need to know it now. I should transfer you to other departments in a few days. I won't give you too many choices this time, Yan Shenfu said, and Yang Mu nodded. By the way, someone came to me recently and said that it was you who asked him to ask for my opinion. Yan Shenfu seemed to say the next idea very logically. He tapped his finger on the table, and a document appeared in front of Yang Mu. This is the application document submitted by the Battleship Research Institute. They hope that you can be an intern researcher in their weapons and equipment department, Yan Shenfu said, leaning back in his chair. Yang Mu was stunned for a moment when he heard these words from the Battleship Research Institute, and then immediately smiled helplessly at old Yan. Teacher, they did come to me, but I don't want to go. My major is not suitable for me, at least not in the short term. Chapter 398 Unknown. Yang Mu shook his head and refused, but Yan Shenfu raised his eyebrows and looked at his apprentice. The Battleship Research Institute had approached Yang Mu privately, but Yang Mu finally chose to refuse. Yan Shenfu admired Yang Mu's humble attitude. He did not get carried away after receiving such an invitation. He did not want to offend others and kick the ball to himself. The application document of the Battleship Research Institute seemed very rude, but Yan Shenfu did not feel the slightest bit of resentment in his heart. The Battleship Research Institute is the most respected research institute among all the research institutes now. At the same time, the scientific research personnel they have selected are also the most professional. There are almost excellent talents everywhere in it, and each of them is an outstanding talent in various fields. In such a team, those people actually set their sights on Yang Mu, which also proves Yang Mu's extraordinariness from the side. Yan Shenfu agreed with the other party's evaluation of Yang Mu's unique ideas and foreseeable applicability in weapon design. The Angel's Light did give many people an unimaginable sense of technology. Even Yan Shenfu himself sometimes wondered how Yang Mu could come up with such a design. But it is true that such a reason would not make Yan Shenfu let him go, but Yan Shenfu did want Yang Mu to go to the Battleship Research Institute to learn something. Those super large battleship designs were also brainstorming sessions, and perhaps they could also give Yang Mu some ideas. No, Yang Mu, I think you can go and try. Yan Shenfu did what he said and said what he was thinking. Although the things in the Battleship Research Institute seem to be incompatible with your current job, I also said that you need to cultivate your design thinking. This kind of equally advanced and complex design may bring you some different help. Yan Shenfu said so, but Yang Mu was stunned immediately. He didn't expect that in the face of such a situation, old Yan would choose to let him go there to study. Yang Mu swallowed and looked at Yan Shenfu again. Teacher, do you really think so? Yan Shenfu nodded carefully, and then passed on the topic. I will contact you when the time comes. At least I won't let you go for a while now. There is also the lecturer work at Kunlo College. Those students are out for training. We will make other arrangements after September. Having said that, Yan Shenfu asked Yang Mu again. Yang Mu, I have talked about things here. Teacher, let me ask you a question here. The work on the engine is completed. What are you going to do next? What to do? Yang Mu hesitated for a while, and also thought about what he would do next after putting down the work on the engine. According to his own idea, he would first design several such hybrid engines, and then design their mecha appearance step by step. This seems to be a natural thing, but now that the engine work is temporarily shelved. Teacher, I think I will design the appearance of the mecha next, which is related to my engine work. This time, the engine ignition test, the unreasonable design of the mecha almost caused the engine to explode. Yang Mu said so, and Yan Shenfu nodded in satisfaction. In fact, Yan Shenfu originally wanted to give the choice of letting Yang Mu design the weapons of the mecha, because he has experience in that area, and it would be easier to start with a familiar. But now it seems that Yang Mu's choice seems to be better. After all, with the emergence of this engine, the original mecha must have some parts redesigned. Perhaps after the hybrid engine is established, the military will directly require the design of a brand new mecha with a hybrid engine as the core. This can be regarded as preparing for a rainy day, and even being able to take a step ahead. Yang Mu is almost more suitable for this job than anyone else. Okay, then you will go to the mecha inner shell design department next, and start with a design of the components of this engine. Yan Shenfu immediately made a decision, and Yang Mu nodded. Yang Mu stood up and prepared to go out, but his steps suddenly stopped, and his hand on the door dropped. Yan Shenfu naturally saw Yang Mu's action, and immediately looked over and asked, "What's wrong?" Yang Mu lowered his head, but his heart was surging, and then he turned his head to look at Yan Shenfu. "Teacher, I want to know. Is there a deadline for my appointment order?" After saying this, Yan Shenfu's hand holding the thing shook unconsciously. A familiar thought appeared in Yan Shenfu's mind. Yan Shenfu remembered the stone that Yang Mu held in the trial field of Kunlo College, and the words he said. "Why do you ask this suddenly?" Yan Shenfu resisted the urge to directly dispel the other party's idea and asked calmly. Yang Mu's eyes flashed, and his heart was also surging with thoughts at this moment. In fact, Yang Mu had not thought about this question in the past few months, but after a conversation with old Yan just now, and thinking about his experience during this period, various places have extended olive branches to him, but without exception, they are all unrelated to military wars. When Yang Mu returned to Yanhurong, he comforted himself to be open-minded. He lived a stable life honestly and tried to put the drawings in his mind into reality. Then there would be a wider space. On Yanhurong, there might be better development in the future. But now that so many things are added to him, and many people agree with the things he designed, Yang Mu suddenly found that he might be drifting away from his job as a soldier for a long time in the future. Yang Mu is not worried about whether he has done enough in this line of work. What Yang Mu is worried about is time. How long will he do it? If he goes on step by step, when he really reaches the level of Mr. Yan or has great value, will he still be able to go to the battlefield? A panic rose to the extreme when Yang Mu was about to push the door and leave. Yang Mu even felt that after he asked, Mr. Yan would directly tell him that he would be out of touch with us in the future. If that was the case, can you win the war without your own interstellar fleet? Can standing behind the scenes really completely change the whole situation? Also, as a scientific researcher, is there enough value for those who call themselves new humans? Yang Mu finally chose to ask, and even made plans. If time is short, then he will work hard. If he will be bound here forever, there will always be a way. Yan Shenfu saw the worry on Yang Mu's face at this moment, which made Yan Shenfu more clear about what Yang Mu was thinking. Even after experiencing the cruel war, the child in front of him still yearned for something other than the work here, but he obviously had outstanding talents here. He should have been an excellent scientific researcher. Yan Shenfu took a deep breath, then looked at Yang Mu and said slowly, Zio Mu, are you afraid that this kind of work will never end? Yang Mu looked up, with a little embarrassment in his eyes, but immediately explained, Teacher, the words were stuck in Yang Mu's throat, but Yang Mu couldn't organize any smooth language, and didn't know how to express what he was thinking. The reality and what he wanted in his heart were in front of him, but Yang Mu was now just a small leaf in the vast ocean, and it was not up to Yang Mu to decide whether to float or sink. So Yang Mu asked Yan Shenfu, and Yan Shenfu asked back, but at this moment his heart was also a little heavy. The office suddenly fell into silence. Yan Shenfu sat on the chair with his eyes closed, and Yang Mu stood aside, with a thoughtful look on his face. After a moment, Yan Shenfu opened his eyes and looked at Yang Mu. Yang Mu also looked over. Yan Shenfu said, "Xiao Mu, I don't know how to explain all this to you." The look on Yang Mu's face became a little embarrassed, and he gradually lowered his head. "But I can make a promise to you," Yan Shenfu added again. Yang Mu suddenly raised his head, and the look in his eyes was a little brighter. "If one day, you feel that you have done your job here with a clear conscience, the teacher will let you leave here and let you go to the place you want to go most." Yan Shenfu seemed to have used a lot of strength to say this, and his eyes looking at Yang Mu were firm. "But at this time, it depends on you." Yan Shenfu said so, and Yang Mu gradually pursed his lips. The look on his face became firm, and then nodded heavily. "Teacher, I understand," Yang Mu said heavily. Yan Shenfu did not speak, but he let out a deep breath, then waved his hand to let Yang Mu out. Yang Mu saluted and walked out quickly. Yan Shenfu looked at the blurry figure on the glass curtain wall, sighed lightly, and muttered to himself. He has the heart to be a general. The first half is basically over. Next, I may have to make a slight leap. It's time to meet more people and show greater ambitions. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 399 5 years. The fastest and slowest, the longest and the shortest, the most ordinary and the most precious, the most easily overlooked and the most regrettable thing in the world is time. Teacher Yang, can you tell us again about the battle experience in the Sonai War that you told us last time? An excited female voice sounded, startling the birds by the window. A beam of sunlight poured into the window, illuminating a bright circular classroom. This is a lecture room in Kunlo College. The classroom is now full of students. All the students are looking at a figure on the central podium with great interest. A girl with braids stood up at this time and asked loudly. On the podium, a tall figure was standing upright at this moment, holding a panel in his hand to check the handouts. When he heard a student's words, he immediately raised his head. The teacher had sharp eyebrows and starry eyes, and his handsome face had a strong look. His skin was not delicate but very healthy, and there was a circle of light stubble around his mouth, making the whole person look a little more mature. This is Yang Mu, the lecturer at Kunlun College. 5 years have passed in the blink of an eye. Yang Mu is already 25 years old. After graduating from here, this is the 8th batch of students taught by him at Kunlun College. Kunlun College has expanded its enrollment again. A few years have passed, and PAJR has also relaxed its admission restrictions. Many foreign students have also appeared in this college, and the students who have graduated from the previous batches have already made their mark in various troops, making Kunlun College more famous. Yang Mu heard the other party's words, looked up, and found that it was the girl who liked to ask questions the most. He immediately showed a gentle smile on his face, and then said with a little reproach, "I asked you to take a break, not to listen to my story. I need to take a break, and so do you, teacher, just tell us about it. We didn't know you had participated in such a battle. The dean said at the school ceremony a few days ago that you were the only one in our college who participated in this war," the girl insisted, staring at Yang Mu with a pout, and the students around her also started to make a noise. They had a very good impression of the youngest teacher in the college. He was tall, handsome, and experienced. His teaching qualifications said that he was the last disciple of Yan Shenfu, a veteran of the institute who had retired. He was now in charge of several scientific research projects, and he was also a senior who graduated from the second term of Kunlun College. It was said that his grades were very excellent. All kinds of halos were added to this young teacher, which made these 17 or 18-year-old boys and girls excited. Yang Mu's courses were offered in March and April every year. Although there were few courses, this elective course was almost full every year. Everyone wanted to see the style of this teacher and senior brother, especially after knowing that he had rich combat experience. This is almost a perfect person, a typical role model, satisfying everyone's imagination. Yang Mu sighed, glanced at the people around him, and smiled helplessly. Since you want to listen, it's not impossible to talk, but after listening, you must complete my course well and get all A's. Cheers rang out in the classroom, and then Yang Mu's voice came out. The morning passed quickly. Yang Mu finished his last class of this semester, said goodbye to his classmates, and walked out. Outside the door, Yun Long, who was sitting and waiting, had stood up and reached out to take Yang Mu's briefcase. Zia Long, is there any news today? Yang Mu greeted the students who left one by one, and said to Yun Long. Yun Long has now officially been upgraded to Yang Mu's security guard and life assistant, getting rid of the life of a tester in the institute. His main task every day is to follow Yang Mu and help him deal with some work and life matters. Hearing Yang Mu's words, Yun Long took out the control panel on his body very familiarly, and then stated the things listed on it one by one. The Baffing engine of the Battleship Research Institute's engine department has completed the initial test. Dean Zhuang asked you, Brother Mu, to check the situation. There are still several mechas that need to do the final factory verification. You need to talk to Old Yan. The matter of leading the team to the mecha competition has been approved. Finally, Sister Chen sent you a message, but I didn't read it. Hearing this, Yang Mu was stunned for a moment, and a pleasant smile appeared on his face. Then he took the personal terminal and looked at it. The message that Chen Kai sent to him now must be related to what he said, but Yang Mu just replied with a message to contact him later. He did not give priority to this matter, but thought of other things first. I must see the matter of the Battleship Engine Research Department. We will go now, Yang Mu immediately said to Yun Long, and then walked out quickly. The Battleship Engine Research Department that Yang Mu mentioned is the opportunity to intern at the Battleship Research Institute after working in the Mecha Research Institute for a year. However, Yang Mu did not choose to work in the Weapons Research Department. Instead, he was transferred to the Engine Research Department after working in the Mecha Research Institute for a year. Although they were both engines, the designs of the two departments were worlds apart. The two things were of different sizes and took longer to design. The battleship drawings in Yang Mu's mind also started from this aspect, but it took 4 years to do it. In 4 years, an engine for anti-insect battleships was finally made. A lot of manpower and material resources were mobilized for this, and the initial test was finally completed today. At the same time, the work of the Mecha Research Institute was also gradually carried out. The main development of mechas based on hybrid engines has been ongoing, but due to the entanglement of various things and the teaching work of Kunlun College, the whole person was busy and everything slowed down. However, it was precisely because Yang Mu played an important role in these things, and everyone saw it, that Yang Mu was naturally promoted and became the director of this Hongsing school. At the same time, he was also the director of the Mecha Research Department. Because Yang Mu was originally a disciple of Master Yen and showed extraordinary talent, Yang Mu also had a very good reputation in the two research institutes and gradually became famous, but because of the confidentiality regulations, only a few people knew about it. But 5 years have passed, and Yang Mu has been working diligently. Yang Mu feels that things can come to an end at this stage. Also, because of the Warship Research Institute, Yang Mu and the fleet military have established a connection, which makes Yang Mu feel the familiar atmosphere again. So Yang Mu talked about this with Yan Shenfu. Yan Shenfu, who was recuperating at home, gave Yang Mu a guarantee that as long as Yang Mu took the competition team organized by the Mecha Research Institute to participate in the international Mecha competition, Yang Mu would be the team leader. After this incident, Yan Shenfu personally stepped in to transfer Yang Mu from his scientific research position. Yang Mu agreed, so the most important thing now is how to complete the task of this international Mecha competition excellently, so that Yang Mu can get out smoothly. Yang Mu also knew about this Mecha competition a long time ago. This is a very famous international competition. After humans entered the universe, mechas as a heavy equipment also entered the field of vision of military equipment. But then, after the end of the First Interstellar War, the research and development of mechas also entered a new stage. Mechas also rose from auxiliary equipment to main combat equipment. Mechas became the most important project in the arms race. However, for mutual communication and peace, international competitions also included mechas. After years of development, mecha competitions have become an independent competition that is popular throughout the galaxy. However, High-performance mechas are high-end military equipment after all. This kind of competition has gradually become a competition between countries, and they can display high-performance equipment in it, so that they are valued by some countries for weapons and equipment transactions, which will also bring good reputation and financial income to the country. In recent years, PAJR has won many mecha competitions it has participated in. This competition, which is held every 10 years, can best reflect the progress of equipment. The PAJR military attaches great importance to it. The military selects excellent mecha soldiers, and the Research Institute dispatches excellent scientific researchers and equipment to ensure that the best results can be achieved in the mecha competition. Although Yang Mu has never participated in such a competition, in his previous life, Yang Mu knew that the final winner of this competition was Osa. But now that he has appeared, the international situation has not changed much, and PAJR is still the most powerful country. In this way, Yang Mu feels that he has a way to complete this task. Chapter 400 Our Promise. Dean Zhang, the acceptance results of the Baffin engine have come out. I think it has met the design requirements. Of course, this is my personal opinion. I still hope to conduct several tests. In the design and manufacturing dock of the Battleship Research Institute, a roaring sound rang around. In an underwater hole not far away, a blue light flashed. This was the light from the engine. A new engine called the Baffin engine has been trial produced here. This engine has changed the original engine matrix, consisting of 18 engines in 2 rows and 9 columns. Now, after design and modification, it has made 2 separate partial engines, each with 8 engines placed in it, and the empty space in the center is a radiation converter, so as to better distribute the power of each sub-engine. In fact, this design is not the design that Yang Mu's mind should have. The battleship engine, the most basic anti-insect battleship, has 2 partial engines, each consisting of 4 sub-engines, and no heavy converters. The reason why it was not made like what he had in mind was not that Yang Mu did not want to draw it, but in the gradual design, Yang Mu was surprised to find that the Battleship Research Institute did not have such theoretical data reserves. There was also no theoretical support in physics and mathematics in major universities. In practice, it was impossible to make a data model. The design in Yang Mu's mind was like a castle in the air. So later, Yang Mu simply made some changes, and the 4 engines became 8. Through the existing data for design, there was finally a certain improvement, which was enough for in-depth research as a project. Haha, Director Yang, let's not talk about anything else. We are convinced by your novel design. Don't worry, this thing can reach this point, and we will speed up the research now. Hearing the assurance of the director of the Battleship Research Institute, Yang Mu was no longer worried. If this project can be carried out, the overall battleship design will have a foundation. Once the Zerg war breaks out, that kind of anti-Zerg battleship can be directly produced. Just ask the Dean. You can just call me Xiao Yang. Actually, I can't help much now. Yang Mu walked with the Dean and then spoke. Dean Zhang looked at Yang Mu and knew that Yang Mu was going to lead the team to participate in the mecha competition recently, so he encouraged him. Comrade Xiao Yang, there is no need to say that. I also heard that you are going to participate in the mecha competition next. Although we can't help you much, I also wish you good results and show the style of the Mecha Research Institute, then I will borrow the Dean's good words. I will definitely come back with honor next time, Yang Mu said with a smile, and then checked the relevant situation with Dean Zhang, and then left here. After coming out of the Battleship Research Institute, the sun had already set. Preparations would be carried out tomorrow. Yang Mu only had time to see Chen Kai now. Thinking of this, Yang Mu walked out of the base quickly, reported the itinerary to the superiors, and drove straight to the Yanhong city under Yunlong. After Chen Kai graduated from Kaianhan University, she went directly to a foreign trade company located in Yanhong Star. Yang Mu was happy to see Chen Kai working in Yanhong Star. He secretly checked the details of the foreign trade company through Su Yuanming and knew that it was related to the Victory Group. Although Yang Mu did not like their style of being entangled, he also knew that this was the best way for Chen Kai, so he did not say anything. The reason why Chen Kai sent him a message today was because he immediately sent a message to Chen Kai after receiving the notice sent by Mr. Yan 2 days ago. After this mission was dispatched, there would be new appointments later. Yang Mu did not know where he would go, so Yang Mu also wanted to meet with Chen Kai and talk about other things, something important to him. On the way, Yang Mu contacted Chen Kai, and Chen Kai immediately gave an address, and Yang Mu rushed there. The car stopped at the door of a nice restaurant. Yunlong parked the car in the smart parking garage, entered the restaurant first, and found a place with a good view to sit down and eat. Yang Mu knew that was a requirement of security work, so he asked the front desk and was led to a relatively quiet corner of the box by the front desk. When he walked in, Yang Mu saw Chen Kai, who had long hair draped over her shoulders, sitting there with a cup of coffee in front of her. She was stirring it slowly with a spoon, and her eyes were looking out the window. Yang Mu walked over, and Chen Kai noticed it immediately. She looked up at Yang Mu, her smile gradually deepened, and her eyes suddenly narrowed into slits. "You're here?" Yang Mu sat down beside him, then opened the smart menu on the desktop, then looked at Chen Kai and the things on the table, and said gently, "Stay up late again." Chen Kai also saw the coffee in front of her, and nodded helplessly. "The company has a lot of orders recently, and it has been very busy." Yang Mu also nodded, and asked Chen Kai what she wanted to eat in a doting manner, and then ordered a few dishes that Chen Kai liked, and then looked at Chen Kai with a smile. "Are you here early in the morning?" Yang Mu said this, but stretched out his hand on the table. "No, I just got here too." Chen Kai smiled and stretched out her hand and put it in Yang Mu's hand. Yang Mu stroked Chen Kai's slender and tender hand, but shook his head in a reproachful manner. "Liar, I just asked the front desk. You have been sitting here for almost 2 hours. You came here as soon as you got off work, right?" Seeing that Yang Mu had exposed her lie, Chen Kai pouted, pulled back her hand as if she was holding back her anger, and then glared at Yang Mu angrily. Yang Mu immediately comforted him. "Okay, let's talk business today. How long will it take you to participate in the mecha competition?" Chen Kai changed her attitude instantly after hearing Yang Mu's words and asked. Yang Mu shook his head and took the appetizer handed over by the robot waiter next to him. "I don't know, maybe it will take a month. What about the future? Will you go back to Yanhuang Star?" Chen Kai asked. Yang Mu had told her before that he didn't want to be a researcher forever. Chen Kai didn't object, but now that she knew that the time was not far away, she was also a little reluctant. Yang Mu sighed, held Chen Kai's hand again, and then slowly said, "Kaier, I'm sorry, I have always made you obey me, and I can't make any compensation. I don't want your compensation. Just promise me one thing." Chen Kai said, "Be careful when you are in the army, and make sure you are safe." Yang Mu nodded of course. But a smile appeared on his face, and then he looked at Chen Kai and said, "I promise you, but Sister Chen Kai, how about I make another promise for you?" "What promise?" Chen Kai was stunned when she heard Yang Mu's words, and looked at Yang Mu with some doubts. The expression on Yang Mu's face gradually became serious, and then he lowered his head. After a while, Yang Mu took a deep breath, raised his head in Chen Kai's doubtful eyes, and said slowly and gently, "Kaier, I promise, after this matter, you will marry me." Yang Mu almost used up all his strength to say this, looking at Chen Kai, but found that Chen Kai's eyes gradually turned red. "What's wrong?" "Kaier, if you think I'm too reckless, then I'll prepare new proposal ceremony right now." Yang Mu was not a person who knew how to create romance. He didn't dare to ask other people about such things. He just relied on his love for Chen Kai in his mind. Seeing Chen Kai's reaction at this moment, he was full of uneasiness. The next moment, Chen Kai burst into laughter, but nodded fiercely and said in a weak voice, "You are not promising at all, you are clearly asking, what?" "Kaier, what did you say?" Yang Mu stood up and sat next to Chen Kai, holding a tissue to wipe Chen Kai's tears, and asked carefully. Chen Kai grabbed Yang Mu's hand, threw herself into Yang Mu's arms, and said in a crying voice, "I say, I do, I do." Hearing this, Yang Mu was stunned for 5 seconds, and then a most gratified smile appeared on his face, and he also hugged Chen Kai tightly. All this came naturally, but there were so many hardships and twists and turns in it. Yang Mu always felt that he owed Chen Kai. As a boyfriend, he never really did what a boyfriend should do. But Yang Mu never thought. How long has Chen Kai been waiting for this moment? "Kaier, I promise that you will be the happiest person in this life." In the corner of the restaurant, the two hugged each other tightly, and at this moment their hearts were extremely warm. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.